Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Godlike Naruto and Anko Kakashi bashing. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by Tonlor and link in the description and support writer. Let's start the video. Naruto Uzumaki stood alongside his two teammates Sakura Haruno and Sasuke Uchiha, waiting for their sensei to show. As per usual, he was very late. Naruto leaned against a tree trying to think of what they, and by they he really meant Sasuke, would learn today. But he didn't really care. He had found out a secret last night when he was trying to work on his taijutsu by fighting a horde of clones. That secret was whatever his clones learned he would learn. At least that's what he thought it was. After defeating all his clones, he noticed he had their memories of how he beat each one. This made him very happy. He finally had something over Sasuke. Naruto looked up just in time to see Kakashi appear via Shunshin. With his standard yo greeting, the day began. Kakashi-sensei. What are we going to learn today? Naruto asked, hoping he would finally give himself and Sakura some pointers. Kakashi looked at him and gave an eyes smile. Naruto, I need you to work on your chakra control. It's abysmal at best, so get a leaf and practice by holding on your head for as long as you can. Sakura, you need to work on your physical conditioning still, so start running laps. Sasuke, it's time we work on your taijutsu, Kakashi said, making Naruto simply turn and walk away. This happened every day. He would give him and Sakura some mundane thing to do while he would focus on Sasuke. Naruto rolled his eyes and left the field, not feeling like training. He knew there wasn't a mission today, or they would have done that before their training. If you could call it that. Naruto stopped when he remembered that a certain Hyuga had shoved him a few days ago for no reason. It was time for some payback. Kakashi watched Naruto simply leave the training ground and gave a sigh. It seemed like Naruto didn't even care about getting stronger. All that mattered to him was pranking someone. 1 hour later, not sated in his need for petty revenge on the Hyuga, who now had bright yellow hair and only orange clothes, Naruto moved out of the village and into a field to begin the new training he had concocted. If he learned what his clones learned, he could kick up his training. Okay, if I remember it right, I remembered the hits and how they happened, but I didn't get any stronger, so maybe it doesn't help with my actual strength and wetness, so maybe keep them on chakra control. I'm going to need a lot of leaves, Naruto thought. He stopped when he heard a crash and a figure came flying into his vision. Whoa, what the hell, Kiba? Naruto asked, looking at his former classmate. Hey Naruto. Kiba looked at the blonde in surprise. Hey man, what are you doing out here? Naruto asked. Personal training time with Kurenai-sensei. She gives each of us a few hours a day 2 days a week to help us focus on fixing our weaknesses and improving our strengths, Kiba explained. Would you stop charging, Kiba? Kurenai said as she appeared on top of a toppled tree. Hello Kurenai-san, Naruto gave a light bow to the Jonin. Hello Uzumaki-san, Kurenai gave a light wave in return. Not to interrupt your training, Kiba, Kurenai-san, but I have a quick question, and since my Jonin-sensei has been less than useless in training our team, I was hoping you might be able to answer my question real quick. Naruto asked. Kurenai glanced at Kiba for a moment, then gave a smile. Sure, we'll take lunch now, Kiba, Kurenai said with a soft smile. Hi sensei, Kiba said as he sped off to find Akamaru and to get their lunches. What would you like to ask me? Kurenai asked. My sensei has said on countless occasions that my chakra control is abysmal at best. What I was wondering was if there is a better way to learn chakra control over the leaf exercise. Naruto asked. Kurenai rubbed her chin for a moment, wondering if it would be okay to show him the 2 exercises she knew. After a moment she gave in. The boy was asking for help, and who was she to send him away? I know of 2. Water walking and tree climbing, Kurenai said. Water walking sounds right, but tree climbing? Naruto asked. Kurenai nodded, then moved over to a tree and proceeded to walk up to it. Oh, like that, Naruto watched in surprise as she easily walked up half the tree and back down. The key to tree walking is getting the right amount of chakra to stick you to the tree. Too much and break the bark and shoot off too little and you slip and fall, Kurenai explained. And water walking? Naruto asked. At tree climbing down first, then I'll show you water walking, Kurenai said. Naruto nodded happily, then took off to start training. Thank you, Kurenai-sensei. Naruto shouted as he disappeared into the forest. I should probably tell Hokage-sama that Team 7 hasn't learned tree climbing yet, Kurenai thought as she turned back as Kiba landed back in the clearing with their food. Naruto barely managed to stumble into his apartment at the end of the night. He hadn't expected the blowback from his clones to hurt as much as it did. His head felt like it was on fire. He reached his bed and hit it with a thud, ready to fall asleep until he heard a soft knock on his window. Hey? Naruto asked as he opened the window to see an Anbu. Hokage-sama wishes to see you tomorrow morning at 10, the Anbu said. Understood, Naruto said with a nod. The Anbu vanished and Naruto fell asleep. The next morning, Team 7 stood before the Konoha Council. Well, 3 people weren't much of a council, but that's what they went by. It was Homura Mitokado, Kaharu Utatane, Danzo Shimura, along with the Hokage Hiruzen Sarutobi. The three genin were all confused as to why they were standing before the Hokage and his advisors. "I assume you are wondering why you are here?" Hiruzen asked. The three simply nodded. Even Naruto knew it wouldn't be a good idea to run his mouth and waited to be told why. "What the council and myself have decided to do is every 6 months the genin teams that are in the rotation will be brought in here from evaluation," Hiruzen explained. "These evaluations will work as such. We will hear from each of you one at a time about your progress on your team. Nothing you say will be told to your teammates. These evaluations are meant to be a one-on-one kind of work. We want honest answers and responses now. If you three will step out. We will be starting with Kakashi." Hiruzen finished, and the three genin moved out of the room. Naruto sat waiting still. Kakashi had gone first, then was dismissed. He had told them their day was done once they were free from their meeting. Sakura opted to go second since she was the girl ladies first, she told Naruto before she cracked him in the head as he tried to step into the office. Sasuke shoved Naruto out of the way once Sakura left, claiming that a clanless dope has nowhere to be, so he had plenty of time to wait. Naruto growled. He was really starting to hate Sasuke. And after that last hit from Sakura, he was starting to doubt his love for the pink-haired teammate. Finally, it was his turn and he did not like the looks he was getting once he stepped into the office. Homura, Kaharu, and Danzo all looked upset while Hiruzen looked indifferent. Yup, he definitely didn't like those looks. "So Naruto, like the others, we will tell you what Kakashi said about you first. And if he was right, I am quite disappointed in you. Kakashi seems to believe that you don't take your training seriously and opt to pull pranks rather than train," Hiruzen said. He nearly fell back when he felt a massive amount of killing intent burst from Naruto and his eyes turned red. "He what? I train harder and more than both the pink-haired bitch and the pampered bastard combined," Naruto all but roared. "I'm the one that trains until his bones crack," he added. "Calm yourself," Hiruzen spoke. He didn't like Naruto losing his cool like this. It was dangerous, to say the least. "No. I've been the happy-go-lucky dope long enough. I am sick and tired of my team looking down on me. You want to know what I think? Haruno is a useless piece of shit. She doesn't help on missions, always claiming it's not a girl's job to pick vegetables or hoe a field. Uchiha never shuts up about how he is simply a better class than me because he comes from a clan and I'm a clanless orphan whose parents abandoned him. As for Haddock, he hasn't trained me at all. I've trained myself. Whether it is by my ninjutsu or taijutsu. All Haddock does is train Uchiha. That emo bastard has gotten 2 Kaitenjutsu and taijutsu training, while I've gotten jack." Naruto screamed. Then Naruto, Hiruzen stared in shock. If this was true, he owed Naruto one hell of an apology. "Fuck this. I quit Team 7. Either give me my own sensei or I'll train myself and become Hokage by myself." It was at this moment Hiruzen noticed Naruto's eyes had shifted back to blue and his hands were bleeding with how tightly he was clenching his hands. "We can't give anyone their own personal sensei," Kaharu spoke. "But you did," Naruto replied. "Haddock hasn't trained me or Haruno. You might as well have made him that bastard sensei and sent us up shit creek," Naruto added. "Naruto, calm down now." Hiruzen's words instantly affected Naruto. His anger all subsided instantly and his face fell. His eyes were filled with sorrow rather than rage. "Now as to your request, I think I might have an idea for you," Hiruzen grinned. Naruto's eyebrow cocked up as he heard this. "Nico?" Hiruzen called, making an Anbu appear. "Yes, Hokage-sama?" Nico asked. "Bring Mitarashi-san to me," Hiruzen said. With a nod, the Anbu was gone. "You can't be serious?" Homura asked. "She's been asking to become a Jonin sensei for a while. This will be a test for her," Hiruzen said. "What about Team 7? Danzo asked. "I'll find a replacement and put them under a strict eye. If Haddock doesn't shape up, I'll knock him back down to Chunin and lock him in on solo Tora missions for 6 months." Everyone in the room cringed, none of them, Danzo included, like that demon cat. "If you need a spy, I might have someone for you," Danzo spoke. "We'll talk later," Hiruzen said, knowing where Danzo was going to go with it. "Mitarashi?" Naruto asked. "Just wait, you'll be in for a surprise," Hiruzen said. Naruto only had to wait 2 minutes before the door opened and in walked simply the most beautiful woman he had ever seen. She had what he would guess to be shoulder-length purple hair that was kept in a spiky ponytail, pupilless caramel eyes, deliciously pearly white skin, and a sexy outfit that consisted of a mesh shirt and shorts with a skirt and trench coat to cover her assets and womanhood. That was when she noticed him and smiled. "Whiskers," she said, and Naruto's jaw dropped to the ground. "Hibi-chan," Naruto spoke softly as he looked at the woman. "Oh, you remember me still?" Anko asked. Naruto couldn't move. His body was frozen. Hibi, as she went by in her time as an Anbu member, was one of his scratch that she was his most precious person. She had saved him time after time from mobs that would have beaten him within an inch of his life and was the one that gave Naruto his 2 most precious possessions and gave him his addiction. His Gamma wallet, his orange jumpsuit, and his love for ramen. TB-chan. Naruto cried as he hugged Anko, who happily returned his hug. I've missed you, Whiskers, Anko laughed as she hugged Naruto. Save the reunion, Danzo growled he hated watching sappy crap. Sorry Shimura-sama, Anko said with a bow as the two separated. Now as to why I called you here, Hiruzen started. Naruto is to be removed from Team 7 and placed into your care, Hiruzen stated, making both of them freeze. Really? Both of them asked. Really, Anko, you've wanted to be a Jonin sensei for a while. Well, here's your chance to make Naruto into a splendid shinobi, and once he's become a chunin, you'll be given your own team. And Naruto, I'm giving you what you wanted. A solo sensei, so no more pranks, eat right and train hard. Prove to me that Haddock was wrong, Hiruzen said. I promise. Naruto shouted. Okay Whiskers, I'll let you have today to rest and get ready for hell tomorrow at 6, I want you at training ground 44, Anko smiled. Anko, you can't, Kaharu stood. He's my gen and I'll train him as I see fit, Anko grinned, her eyes stopped on Naruto, seeing him smiling brightly and nearly hopping with joy. I'll be there. Where do I find training ground 44? Naruto asked. It's the big forest that's fenced off outside of the village, Anko said. You know that scary forest I took you when we had those two rogue Anbu hunting you 5 years ago, Naruto's eyes widened, then he grinned even more. Gotcha, I'll be there at 6 sharp, Naruto said with a salute, then he was gone in a flash as he ran from the room with a huge smile on his face. Anko, there is a second reason I chose you, Hiruzen said with a stern face. Hi, Anko knelt. My advisors believe that Naruto may be a flight risk, we need you to keep an eye on him, Hiruzen said. No need. Whisker would never leave Konoha, Anko said. And you know this? Homura asked. Yup, when he was 6 he proclaimed he would be Hokage, and though I doubt he remembers the second half of his promise, if he did, he wouldn't be able to hug me without blushing. What was the second half? Hiruzen asked. That I would be his wife, Anko chuckled. Now how could he achieve those two things if he left? Anko added. Hiruzen chuckled lightly at the smile on her face. Mitarashi-san, you cannot take a genin into the forest of death under any circumstances, Kaharu said. He's been there before like you've heard, and I distinctly remember Orochimaru team training me in there, and Jiraiya-sama trained the 4th and his team in there at one time as well, Anko replied. But enough, Anko is within her rights as a sensei to train Naruto as she deems fit, Hiruzen said. Now Anko, you are dismissed. Danzo, I believe you wish to speak about a filler for Team 7. Hiruzen turned to face his old partner as Anko vanished. Ah yes, it is a boy I have en route. I'd like to test to see how one of my root agents files back into society, Danzo explained. What is the boy's name? Hiruzen asked. Sai, Danzo replied. Very well, bring him, I'd like to meet him before we deploy him, Hiruzen commanded. Danzo nodded and left the room to retrieve him. The next morning. Team 7. Kakashi stood before his team once again. They were within the Hokage's tower. What was confusing to Kakashi was that Naruto was nowhere to be seen. The Hokage will see you now, Kakashi nodded and led his team into the room. He would have to find and scold Naruto later. Ah, good time today, Hiruzen said as he put down a field report. Now to why I called you here today. There. Not to interrupt Hokage-sama, but Naruto is not here yet, Kakashi spoke. That is the reason I asked you here. Naruto has demanded to be removed from Team 7, Hiruzen said, making all three stop in surprise. So in being removed I called you here to give you your new teammate. Sai, please come in, Hiruzen said. A moment later a young pale boy with black hair and eyes stepped into the room. He was dressed in a pair of black pants and a black jacket that had one short sleeve and one long sleeve. Hokage-sama, what's going to happen to Naruto? Sakura asked. We had one of our Takebetsu Jonin volunteers to train him. If she hadn't he would have been sent back to the academy, Hiruzen answered. That doesn't seem fair. He quits our team and is rewarded by getting a solo teacher, Sasuke said with a growl. You'd best revise that tone, Sasuke, Hiruzen said, leveling just a taste of his kai on him. Sasuke froze as he felt the powerful wave hit him. Of course, my apologies, Hokage-sama, Sasuke said weakly. Apology accepted. Now you three have to get acquainted. Off with you, Hiruzen said with a soft smile. Forest of Death. Naruto stood before Anko deep within the Forest of Death. Naruto glanced around. He could see several beasts just beyond the tree line. Okay Whiskers, here's what we are going to do, Anko said, getting Naruto's undivided attention. First we are going work on your taijutsu and find a few ninjutsu that plays to your style, Anko explained. Wait, you mean you're not going to just have me focus on my chakra control? Naruto asked. Why? Should I? Anko asked. I don't know, that's just what Haddock did, Naruto replied. Well, I'm not him, so how about you get in your taijutsu stance and we start there, Anko said. Naruto nodded and took his stance. Anko's jaw just about hit the ground upon seeing it. It was the worst stance she had ever seen. Okay, we're stopping already, your taijutsu is useless. We're throwing it out, we'll have to find you a style, Anko said, making Naruto look down ashamed of himself. Sorry sensei, Naruto said shyly. It's not your fault. Your academy teachers and your Jonin sensei should have fixed it, Anko said before an idea hit her. Now I want you to hit me as hard as you can. Naruto looked at her oddly for a moment, then ran at her, cocking his fist back as he did. Anko grinned right up until his first hit her stomach. Doubling over instantly, Anko realized something. He hit like a bull. After nearly coughing up blood, Anko slowly worked her way back to her feet. Holy shit, was all Anko managed to say as she looked at a very worried Naruto. Are you okay, sensei? Naruto asked. Have you always hit that hard? Anko asked, still holding her stomach. She already figured she'd have to see a doctor to make sure she was okay. I don't know, I usually lost my spars because I wasn't fast enough, Naruto said. Well then we know what to work on for the moment. We're going to get your speed up and get you a taijutsu style to match that freakish punch you got, and I know just who to go to, Anko said with a grin. Naruto followed his sensei down a road as she seemed overly secretive about where they were going. Anko glanced over her shoulder to see Naruto following her just like she used to follow the snake bastard. It both warmed and worried her. She liked having a student who was 100% ready to follow her, but she didn't want a blind follower either. Naruto stops for a moment, Anko said. Naruto nodded and stopped following. Is something wrong, Anko-sensei? Naruto asked. What does sensei mean to you? Anko asked. A sensei is someone who should teach their students or underlings the best they can so they are ready for what is to come, but also must be willing to adapt to each underling, Naruto replied. Anko blinked for a moment, not expecting an answer like that. And should you follow your sensei's words? Anko asked. Of course, unless your sensei is demanding you do something you're not comfortable doing, then you should tell them and refuse to commit the act, Naruto replied. Anko nodded, then started to move again. Just checking, let's move, Anko said. Hi, Naruto said and followed. Anko and Naruto stopped once they reached a training ground. Anko tapped her foot a few times before she pulled out a kunai and whipped it at a tree. Naruto blinked in surprise when he heard the tree yelp and a girl fell out of it. Naruto looked over at her, seeing she had brown hair kept in a pair of buns and was wearing a pink button-up shirt with green pants. Where's Guy? Anko asked. Guy-sensei should be back from his lap any second now, the girl said with a huff. Your stealth was fine, by the way, it's just not easy to sneak up on a snake, Anko said as a brown snake slithered out from her coat. Whoa, when did you summon him? The girl asked. Mitarashi-san. A voice echoed out as a green blur landed in the field. What brings you out here on such a youthful morning? Hey, Guy, I was hoping to ask for your assistance in finding a proper field for my genin's taijutsu, Anko said, pointing at Naruto. Ah, you've gotten your first genin, congratulations. Guy said loudly before looking at Naruto. Hame-san? Naruto asked, suddenly making Guy smile brightly. Ah, you remember me? Guy asked, giving his shining smile. How could I forget you? Naruto asked. Naruto remembered Kame. He was one of few Anbu that was good to him. Anko, his precious Hibi-chan, Kame, which he now knew to be Guy, and then there was Nico, the cat, and Wani, the crocodile, whom he still didn't know the true identity of. How indeed, Anko said with a chuckle. Now Naruto, hit me here as hard as you can so I can gauge your strength, Guy said, patting his stomach as two more figures appeared in the field. One looked like a miniature version of himself, while the other had long brown hair and pale eyes. Right, Naruto said as he cocked his fist back. Wait, Guy, brace yourself more, Anko said, stopping Naruto. Guy nodded and better braced himself for the hit. Okay, go, Naruto nodded and ran over to Guy and sent his fist into Guy's stomach. To everyone's surprise, Guy still dropped to one knee. Guy-sensei, all three of the other kids spoke at once. Holy flames of youth, my boy, you hit harder than Lee, Guy said as he stood and grinned. So what do you think? Anko asked. Well, he needs more speed first, Guy said once he saw Anko already nodding. Once you get that up, he'd be a perfect candidate for one of the Gensoken. Known as the elemental fist style, each one is a unique style to an already created fighting style, Guy said. Oh, that sounds awesome, Naruto said with stars in his eyes. You'll have to get your speed up and find out what your elemental release is. Once you've done those, I can show you the basics of one of the five. Hai-ken, Mizu-ken, Tsuchi-ken, Kaminari-ken or Keiz-ken, one guy explained. Is there anyone who uses those styles? Naruto asked. Yes. When fighting against someone who truly pushes me, I used Tsuchiken, my eternal rival who knows the basics of Kaminari-ken. The second Hokage was a master of Mizu-ken, and Madara Uchiha was the most powerful master of Hai-ken ever known, Guy explained. What about Keiz-ken? Naruto asked. The only practitioner of Keiz-ken right now is Asuma Sarutobi, Guy replied. Come on, Naruto. We need to get you set up so we can fix your speed, Anko said, getting Naruto to silence his questions. How are you planning on fixing his speed? Guy asked. A little mix of what you did to Lee and a little of my own, Anko said with a sly grin. Ah, well, let your flames of youth guide you. Guy shouted before giving a thumbs up and smiling. Yeah, sure, Anko said as she beckoned Naruto to follow her. Naruto gave a light bow to Guy and then quickly followed after Anko. "Where are we heading now, Anko-sensei?" Naruto asked. "To one of my favorite shops in all of Konoha," Anko replied with a big foxy grin that rivaled Naruto's. Naruto gulped then smiled, figuring Anko wouldn't do anything to hurt him on purpose. Naruto marveled as he looked after sword while Anko talked with the shop owner. Naruto stopped when his eyes found a sword. "Hey Mr. Shopkeeper, why is this sword different?" "It's a broadsword, it's thicker and sharpened on both sides." "So while being slower than a katana it is stronger," the shopkeeper replied. "Cool," Naruto said as he moved on. "So do you have any?" Anko asked. "Yup, one set left," the shopkeeper replied, showing Anko a set of wrist guards and shin guards. "Perfect, I'll take them," Anko said, grabbing the guards. Glancing over her shoulder she could see Naruto testing the weight and speed of one of the shopkeeper's broadswords. "These are really nice," Naruto said as he tested the blade with a few more swings. "Also not why we are here now, try these on," Anko said, handing Naruto the guards. Naruto put the sword back and put the guards on. Once he handed them on he dropped to the ground as a set of red seals showed on the guards. "What's going on, I can't lift my arms or legs," Naruto said as he tried to move. "Give it a minute, the seals are still attuning themselves to your body," Anko said. Naruto looked at the glowing red seals, then nodded and waited for something to happen. Sure enough, after a full minute, the seals turned blue for a moment and then vanished. "Hey, I can move but just barely," Naruto said, lifting himself. "Perfect, this will give you a leaner build and your speed can be fixed," Anko as she led Naruto out of the shop. Of Team 7, Sakura was completely lost, she hadn't been able to keep up with her team at all. She could understand Kakashi-sensei, but Sasuke and Sai shouldn't be this much faster than her. She was starting to hate herself. All she did was physical exercise like Kakashi-sensei demanded, but she wasn't getting anywhere. She finally just gave in and stopped to catch her breath. She was soaked to the bone with sweat, but she never saw her fellow teammates waiting for her, no matter how far she ran. She was starting to feel abandoned and she didn't like that. She stopped dead when everything dawned on her. Kakashi-sensei had been playing favorites with Sasuke just like Naruto had been complaining about. "Naruto, what are you doing out here?" A familiar voice caught her. She spun to see Naruto standing a few feet away from her just after the next turn in the road. And he looked as bad as she did, he looked like he had jumped in a lake with how sweaty he was. "Naruto, are you okay?" Sakura asked, still slightly out of breath. She did feel a little hurt that she went from Sakura-chan to Haruno so quickly. "I could as you the same," Naruto said as he walked towards her. "Kakashi-sensei had us go out for a jog, but I couldn't keep up and now I can't find them," Sakura said, ashamed of herself. "What, no Sasuke-sense?" Naruto asked with a slight smirk. "Oh, shut up," Sakura said weakly before she saw a figure behind Naruto. She couldn't believe how beautiful the woman was. "Ah, you must be one of Naruto's old teammates. I was wondering why my little Gaki stopped running," Anko said, giving Naruto a wicked smile. "Sorry sensei," Naruto said while rubbing the back of his head. "It's fine, I'll let you catch your breath for a minute," Anko said as she jumped up and landed on the fence, her eyes scanning for something. "So how's Team 7 been?" Naruto asked. "Confusing, I found something I really want to study, but sensei hasn't helped me out with it," Sakura said. "What do you mean he hasn't helped you out?" Anko asked, dropping back down. "Well, I went to the hospital yesterday to see my grandmother and I saw a mednin and I'm not sure what it was about him, but I wanted to do it, I want to help people to be able to patch them up. So I asked Kakashi-sensei if he could give me a few pointers or if he knew how I could get started in becoming a mednin. And all he said was if once I get my strength up to par he would help me out. Then he went back to helping Sai and Sasuke," Sakura explained. "You need to bring that up to Hokage, Naruto said. "Whiskers is right. If Kakashi isn't training you right you gotta tell someone," Anko said. "I don't want to cause a problem, I'm not a clan shinobi or anything," Sakura said. She watched as Anko reached forward and flicked her on the forehead. "What was that for?" Sakura asked. "Clan shinobi or not, you are a kunoichi of the hidden leaf and deserve all the same training as the pampered princess and whoever your other teammate is," Anko said with a lot of disdain in her voice. "You really think so?" Sakura asked. "Would you think I'm weak and not as valuable as someone like Tsumin Anko asked. "No, but you're a sensei," Sakura said. "I was a genin once too, give yourself 10 years you might be in my position," Anko said. Sakura looked at Anko, then nodded. "Thank you." Sakura paused. "Anko Mitarashi," Anko said, knowing it was what Sakura was searching for. "Thank you Mitarashi-sensei," Sakura said with a slight bow. Ma, there you are Sakura," Kakashi said as he walked up. He stopped when he saw a hint of rage flash across Anko's eyes. "Hey, what the hell, Kakashi? Your genin tells you she wants to learn medical ninjutsu and you tell her to get stronger first." Anko growled. "Watch your tongue, Anko. Lest you forget I am still a jonin and you are only a takebetsu jonin," Kakashi said with a hint of venom in his voice. "I'd watch your tongue, Haddock," Naruto said, his eyes flashing red for a moment. I won't have you insulting a real sensei. Know your place, Uzumaki, Kakashi said with a growl. Back off, Anko now stood between Kakashi and Naruto, her eyes locked with Kakashi's. You don't get to talk to me or my genin like that back, Kakashi. And I'll have you know. The moment I took Naruto on as my genin, Hokage-sama promoted me to full-fledged jonin. Anko added one hand on her kunai pouch, while the other was hidden and, unbeknownst to the one-eyed jonin, holding one hell of a venomous snake. Hum along, Sakura. I believe the fox and snake were playing together, Kakashi said as he simply turned and walked away with a very worried Sakura following him. She didn't get what he meant by fox and snake. Prick, Naruto said before he simply turned and started up his run. Anko kept looking in his direction for a moment, then turned to watch over her genin. 1 hour later, Naruto had finally finished his training for the day and dropped down to the ground panting heavily. Can you move still? Anko asked. Barely. I'm not sure I'll be able to walk home, Naruto said weakly. But let's go, Anko said. Anko-sensei, you're a slave driver, Naruto said as he pushed himself up. Oh, you'll enjoy my little treat for you. This is something I'll give you on special occasions, Anko said as the two started to move again. Naruto couldn't believe what he was seeing. Anko stood before him clad only in a towel. Naruto couldn't take his eyes off her. Who could really? Anko smiled and stepped out of the room, getting Naruto to follow like a mindless hormonal teenager set on seeing. Ah, that feels good, Anko said as she sunk into the hot waters of the onsen. Naruto still blushed heavily as he sat next to her in the water. Anko rested her head back, feeling slightly good about herself. She had pushed Naruto to his limit, scared Kakashi away, and was currently threatening to give her genin a bloody nose that might just kill him. All in all, it was a good day. This is one hell of a reward, Naruto said, trying not to look at Anko. At least be beaten within an inch of his life. You earned it and feel free to gawk. That's your reward. You get to check out my smoking hot body while we soak, Anko laughed lightly. I don't know if I could look without passing out, Naruto said, his face still beet red. You'll get used to it, Anko laughed some more. Naruto just chose to look up at the stars with his sensei, rather than at her obscenely beautiful body. Hey, Anko-sensei, could you teach me how to summon snakes? Naruto asked. You want to summon snakes? Anko asked. Yeah, truth be told I like frogs and toads a little more, but snakes are really cool too, Naruto replied. I'll think about it, Anko said. Come on, let's go get out of here, Anko said as she stood and stretched but forgot to hold her towel. Naruto looked over just as the towel fell off her form. Anko grabbed the towel but was a second too late and Naruto got a full frontal view of her naked body. Before Anko could say a word, Naruto was out cold with a river of a bloody nose as he mumbled about seeing an angel. Anko just shook her head and picked up the unconscious boy. The 4-year-old Naruto stood looking up at a masked woman smiling brightly. Through her mask hid her face, she smiled as well. So you want to be Hokage? Anko asked. Yeah. I'm going to be Hokage, then I'll make Hibi-chan my wife, Naruto said, making Anko's face turn bright red under her mask. I'm sorry, what? Anko asked. You heard me, Hibi-chan is going to be my wife, Naruto said as he hugged Anko. And we'll have a big family and we'll be super happy, Naruto added, still smiling happily. I don't think you'd really want that. By the time you're Hokage I'll be old and wrinkled, Anko said. Then we'll just have to get married before I become Hokage, Naruto said defiantly. You're really set on this, aren't you? Anko asked. I never break my promises, Naruto said. Fine, when you get old enough you can try and marry me, Anko smiled. Naruto shot up from his bed panting heavily. His mind was reeling. He remembered that promise now. What he had said to Anko before he knew she was Anko. Naruto dropped back onto his bed smiling and shaking his head. How did I forget something like that? Naruto asked himself as he laughed lightly. His face then turned red as he tried to figure out how he was going to look at Anko without blushing anymore, with this now added on top of seeing her naked for a brief moment. Naruto dropped back and closed his eyes, trying to fall back asleep, not even noticing how easy it was for him to move compared to when he first put the weights on. 1 month later, for 1 month Naruto was put through a daily hell of training. Each day his weights would be increased a little and they would run longer and spar harder. Anko made sure she adjusted Naruto's meals. He was only allowed ramen once every other day. His diet had gotten a complete overhaul thanks to Anko's ever-watching eye on him. And all her work was paying off. Naruto was in the best shape of his life and he didn't even know it. He didn't realize how heavy his weights were or the fact that Anko would up her game the moment he came close to hitting her. She wasn't stupid. She wasn't about to take a hit unless she truly couldn't dodge it. And thanks to Guy, Naruto was now the second person in Konoha that was learning and using Kei's-ken. And what shocked Guy the most was how easy it came to Naruto. It was as if the style was made for him. With each passing session, Naruto became more fluid and evasive, just like the wind itself. I praised Naruto continuously for his amazing skill with something most jonin don't even take the time to learn. Naruto had evolved himself over time. Gone was his orange jumpsuit. replaced by a pair of black pants with orange lines running down the sides, a sleeveless orange shirt that bore the kanji for wind on the back, his wrist guard weights were covered by bandages that were then covered by his very own trench coat. Unlike Anko's coat, Naruto's coat was midnight black trimmed in orange, and like his shirt had the kanji for wind on the back. Naruto now stood before Anko, who was grinning at him. "Well, it's time we take our first real mission," Anko said, making Naruto smile. One of the things Anko got Naruto doing during their training was using his shadow clones to complete D-ranked mission. "What's the mission?" Naruto asked. "We've got to head to the Tenchi Bridge and deliver a scroll to one of Konohagakure's spies," Anko said. "A message delivery to a spy. That seems a little odd," Naruto said. "Usually this would be either an A-ranked or S-ranked mission, depending on the spy and the information. But Hokage-sama's sure that the spy won't be in danger or a danger," Anko explained. "Well then I should go pack for a week's trip," Naruto said. Once Anko nodded, Naruto vanished in a swirl of leaves. Anko smiled at how fast he had picked up on the shunshin. She then did the same and vanished in a swirl of poison mist. The cloaked figure walked onto the bridge and slowed, seeing a red-haired man walking towards him from the other side. The figure paused, wondering if this was his contact or just a random passerby. "Oh, good afternoon," the red-haired man said with a soft smile. "Afternoon," the figure spoke. The red-haired man slowed as he reached the cloaked man. "What brings you all the way out here?" the man asked. "I'm traveling to see an old friend," the figure answered. "You?" he then asked. "I am but a simple Rounin, that I am," the man said, still smiling softly. It was at this moment the figure took in the man's appearance. The man had very long red hair kept nicely tied behind his neck. He had violet and he had an X scar on his cheek. The man was wearing a pair of blue tabi socks, wicker sandals, and a white hakama with a light maroon kimono. The final thing the figure noticed was that he wore a katana on his hip. "And what is a Rounin doing so far from the land of iron?" the figure asked. "I'm looking for a peaceful place to lay my head, that I am," the Rounin replied as he offered his hand to the man. "Hamura Kenshin," the man smiled softly. "Uchiha Itachi," Itachi said, shaking Kenshin's hand. "That name sounds familiar," Kenshin said as he cocked his head slightly. Itachi nodded in response. "I'm the one that wiped out an entire clan in the land of fire," Itachi replied. "That is a horrible thing to do, that it is," Kenshin replied. "I had little choice. I am not here to defend myself to a stranger," Itachi replied. "Of course I'll be on my way," Kenshin said as he started to pass by Itachi. Another few minutes passed as a feminine figure appeared before Itachi. "I take it you're my contact," Itachi said. Anko gave a nod and the figure reached for its hood. Anko stood in shock seeing Itachi of all people. "What the fuck?" Anko said as she jumped back grabbing a kunai. "I assume you weren't expecting me," Itachi said with a blank stare. His eyes widened for a moment before he quickly ducked, narrowly dodging a sword and a body as they passed him. "Now that is impressive, a henge I couldn't see through," Itachi said as the red-haired man had reappeared for a moment before Naruto was revealed. "Stand down, Naruto," Anko said. Naruto growled but nodded and moved behind Anko. It had taken all of his control to not make a face when he'd first heard the name. "Good control over your genin," Itachi said, still showing any emotion. Anko paused, then tossed a scroll to Itachi. The moment the scroll was within range, Itachi destroyed it. "Scrolls from Sarutobi-sensei are always brown with a yellow border," Itachi said as his eyes moved to Anko. "Trying to test me?" "Needed to be sure," Anko said before she tossed him the scroll he had described. "Understandable," Itachi said as he pocketed the scroll. "A word of warning, Uzumaki. Others have made the same henge you have. Continued use of it can cause split personalities," Itachi said before he vanished by use of his murder of crows. "What in the blue hell was that? Why is Itachi a spy? He wiped out the Uchiha clan and he's a spy for us?" Naruto asked in shock. "I don't know, we'll have to ask Hiruzen when we get back," Anko said as the two turned only to find a rather large group of bandits moving towards them. "Oh great, that bandit group we passed caught up to us," Anko said, having remembered passing the group with little difficulty on their way to the bridge. "Should I scare them off?" Naruto asked with a slight grin. "Oh, this I have to see," Anko said, taking a step back. "Haju Kage Bushin no Jutsu," Naruto shouted as roughly 100 Narutos appeared. "Henge no Jutsu," all of the Narutos called out. All of the Narutos became cloaked in smoke and slowly faded, revealing a massive squad of warriors. Each one wore flannel skirts and held weapons ranging from broadswords and shields to large two-handed swords. Each one held a different look, some had short black hair, some had long blonde hair, but all wore blue war paint. The bandit group stopped dead seeing the miniature armor of near-naked men clad in skirts. "What the hell is this?" the head bandit said, taking a step back. "Invictus Manio." The horde cried out as they charged at the bandits. Anko burst out into laughter when the bandits started to trip over themselves as they ran from the strange horde of men. After a few minutes, Naruto returned laughing his head off. "So what was that?" Anko asked. "I call it my shadow clone horde ability." As for their appearances, they came from a book Kiba told me about. He said it was bloody and had a lot of death in it. The people were called Celts, I think, Naruto explained. And what was it you shouted? Anko asked. Invictus Manio? It means I remain unvanquished, Naruto answered. Not bad. Now let's get home, Anko said. Naruto nodded and the two left the bridge. Back in Konoha, 2 days had passed and Sakura sat waiting to talk to the Hokage. She didn't want to rat out Kakashi, but she wanted to learn and he wasn't helping. She looked down for a moment before she heard someone call her name. Haruno-san. Sakura looked up to see Sai walking toward her. Hi Sai, Sakura said with a soft smile. Why are you here? Sai asked. I'm waiting to talk to the Hokage, Sakura said. Why are you here? Sakura asked. Same, Sai said sitting down next to Sakura. This was hands down the longest conversation they had ever had between each other. But that didn't stop Sakura from liking Sai a little. What could she say? She had a thing for dark-haired pale boys. What do you need to talk to the Hokage about? Sakura asked. I'd rather not say, Sai replied. Sakura nodded. Yup, just like Sasuke ignored her. Haruno-san, the Hokage will see you know, the Hokage's secretary said. Sakura nodded and stood up. Ah Sakura, what can I do for you? Hiruzen said looking up from his last report for the day. He waited for a moment, but she said nothing. He quickly figured out she was nervous about something. I wanted to Sakura started before she stopped. It is fine, you can tell me anything, Hiruzen said. I was kind of hoping I could get a solo sensei like Naruto, Sakura said getting Hiruzen to sigh. Has Kakashi not been training you? Hiruzen asked. Yes and no, he trains me, but not in what I want to learn, Sakura replied. And what is it you want to learn? Hiruzen asked. Medical ninjutsu, Sakura said. Hiruzen smiled happily to see someone interested in the art. His face quickly changed as he thought over Kakashi. I warned him about neglecting, Hiruzen said as he rubbed his brow. Okage-sama, I believe it would be best if I gave my report, Sai said as he stepped in fully knowing Sakura was still there. Or bad news on Haddock? Hiruzen asked. Extremely, Sai replied. With a nod, he cleared his throat and began. Kakashi Haddock has shown little to no interest in training Haruno-san, even though she shows great admiration in becoming a Mednin. He focuses too heavily on Sasuke Uchiha and me. I believe he knows I am to report to you and was hoping by giving me the extra focus I wouldn't see how he ignores Haruno-san. My recommendation is to remove Haddock from the sensei program and place him back in Anbu or his Jonin rank. He is not fit to train. As for the three of us, I recommend that I return to Root. Haruno-san is appointed a sensei fit to teach her medical ninjutsu, and Uchiha-san complete removal from the ninja program. Sai finished his long report. I will come back to the rest of that report. But first, why do you wish to return to Root? Hiruzen asked. I was trained to be emotionless, and I find myself emotionally compromised for reasons I don't understand, Sai replied. How so? Hiruzen asked. When Haddock-sensei ignores Haruno-san for instance I find myself becoming angered at him, Sai answered making Sakura's face go red. Any other instances? Hiruzen asked. One in particular, said replied. Flashback, Sakura stood facing Sasuke. She was ready for this. She had been training herself for this. To be able to fight someone she cared out. As a shinobi she had to understand that just because she liked them or that they were friends, they could also become enemies. Sakura took a slow breath and the match began. Sasuke shot forward ready to attack. And to his, Sai's, and Kakashi's surprise his attack missed. As did the second, third, fourth in fact he found himself unable to hit Sakura. The Pincat was dodging everything he threw at her. What's going on? Sasuke growled. Sakura smiled as she dodged another attack and backflipped a ways off. I've admired you for a long time Sasuke-kun, in doing so I've learned how you attack and how you move, Sakura said with a smile. Her obsession with Sasuke has finally come into use. She was all but untouchable when Sasuke tried to hit her. Bullshit, Sasuke shouted as he ran in and started his attacks up again. Sakura did the same and dodged each attack, but this time she added in a punch of her own and caused Sasuke to stumble backward and lose his footing. He had become so enraged by Sakura knowing all his attacks that he got sloppy. And now it would cost him. He fell back hitting the ground hard and quickly felt a weight on his chest. He looked up to see Sakura over him with a knee on his chest and her fist inches from his nose. Looks like I win, Sakura smiled happily. With a near happy cheer, she got off Sasuke and led him up. Well do, Sai started to say before Sasuke flipped to his feet and launched the hardest punch he could at Sakura, who was miles off in her victory to notice. It was at the last moment that she saw his fist. With all his might behind his punch, he nailed Sakura right in the face, instantly knocking her out and slamming her to the ground. Before Sasuke could say a word he found himself in the same situation he had put Sakura. Sai's fist was in his face before he could react. And just like Sakura he took the hit and was smashed into the ground. But unlike Sakura, he kept his consciousness. He looked up to see a rage-filled look in Sai's eyes. "That is not how you act after losing a spar, nor is it how you should treat a teammate," Sai said before he moved over to Sakura, making sure she wasn't severely hurt. Flashback end, and Haddock did nothing. Hiruzen asked. Sai shook his head answering him. "How long ago was this?" Hiruzen asked. In answering him again, Sai looked to Sakura who refused to look at them. "Sakura, how long ago was this?" Hiruzen asked. "A while," Sakura lied. "It was yesterday. She's using a henge to hide her bruise," Sai said, making Sakura look away more. "Sakura, show me this bruise," Hiruzen said with a stern voice. Sakura made a hand sign and the henge faded. What Hiruzen saw made him visibly look away for a moment. Her right eye was nearly swollen shut and all around it was dark purple to black. The bruise covered a good portion of the right side of her face. "Okajima, Anko, and Naruto wished to speak to you," the secretary tried to warn him before the door burst open and the two entered. "Okay, we're back and we need answers," Anko said. She froze when she saw Sakura. This wasn't going to be good. And boy was she right. Naruto stopped dead seeing the bruise on Sakura. "Sakura, who did that to you?" Naruto asked. "It was a mission," Sakura said, trying to cover for Sasuke. "And here I thought Naruto was bad at lying," Anko said. "Sasuke," Naruto all but growled. "Naruto, you are to stay put." "Sasuke will be handled by me," Hiruzen said, making all of Naruto's rage subside. The Hokage could do far worse than he ever could. "Now I will speak with you two in a moment, but first. Sai, please take Sakura to the hospital to have her looked at." Sai nodded and took a hold of Sakura's hand and pulled the now blushing Sakura out of the office. Hiruzen then places a seal on the wall and the pattern quickly spread over the room. With a nod he let them know they could now ask. "Itachi?" was all Anko could think of to ask. "Yes, Sid, and I will explain," Hiruzen said. The next morning, Sasuke Uchiha stood before the Hokage visibly sweating. He'd never thought that something like this would happen to him of all people. He wasn't sure what he had been summoned for, but he didn't like the looks he was getting. "I'm not going to sugarcoat this. I'm putting you on probation. If you step one more foot out of line, I will seal your chakra away and remove you from the ninja program," Hiruzen said, making Sasuke look at him in shock. "What have I done to deserve this?" Sasuke asked. "The main accusation was the overuse of force in your spar with Haruno-san. From reports from both Haruno-san and Sai, you had clearly lost, and instead of taking your loss with humility, you lashed out and attacked Sakura," Hiruzen said. "She should have let down her guard. A real enemy wouldn't let her celebrate," Sasuke said. "She would have killed or incapacitated a real enemy. A friend and teammate, all she should have needed to do is just pin you," Homura said. "Do you want to know how much damage you did, Haruno-san?" Kaharu asked. "How much could a single punch do?" Sasuke asked. "Let's see. Thanks to your advanced strength and her hitting the ground, she has a fracture on the back of her skull, a severely bruised cheek and forehead, her eye is swollen shut, her nose is broken, and she lost 10% vision in her right eye," Hiruzen said, making Sasuke blink in surprise. "All from one punch?" Sasuke asked. "You don't seem to understand. Yes, she is a kunoichi, but Haruno-san is still a young girl. Add the fact that until recently, she hadn't been taking her training seriously. You might as well have punched a civilian girl in the face," Kaharu said. "If she can, you're done defending yourself. As of this moment you are on probation and Team 7 is shelved until we find you a third teammate," Hiruzen said. "Third teammate?" Sasuke asked. "We've removed Sakura from your team as she doesn't feel safe around you," Homura answered. "So where is she going?" Sasuke asked. "We will cross that bridge once she is fully healed," Hiruzen replied. "You are dismissed, Genin Uchiha." Sasuke gave up both and all but stormed out of the office. "How dare they do this to me?" Sasuke growled as he walked through the office. With Naruto dropped to the ground as he looked up at Anko, who was grinning at him. "You'll have to do better than that," Anko laughed. "Good thing I like strong girls," Naruto said, making Anko's face redden just slightly. "I'm not a girl, Naruto, I'm a full-grown woman," Anko said as she rolled her eyes. "Another thing I like," Naruto laughed. This time Anko simply rolled her eyes and removed her foot from Naruto's chest. Anko turned to see an Anbu land before her. "Mitarashi-san, the Hokage wishes to see you right away," the Anbu said. "I'll be right there." "You're free for the day, Naruto," Anko said before she vanished in a plume of purple smoke. "Ramen, here I come," Naruto said with a smile. Anko stepped into the Hokage's office to see him rubbing his chin. "Ah, Anko, good timing," Hiruzen said as he handed her a report. "I need you to take Naruto and get to the border of the Land of Wind. There you will meet Jiraiya and head to Sunagakure. The Kazekage has asked for assistance with his son's seal," Hiruzen said. "Hi, Hokage-sama, but if I may ask, why is it necessary for me and Naruto to go?" Anko asked. "I want Naruto to meet another Jinchuriki, and the Kazekage has asked specifically for you. He has information on Orochimaru and he knows you were his student. Now move out," Hiruzen answered. "Hi, Hokage-sama," Anko said, vanishing to get Naruto. Anko stepped into Naruto's apartment. She was planning on scaring the hell out of him once he came out of the bathroom. The door started to open and Anko noticed something instantly. All of his clothes were on his bed. An evil grin came to her face. This just got better. Naruto. She shouted. Holy mother. Naruto shouted back as he stumbled backward. Anko started to laugh, but that quickly died on her lips as she saw his near-naked form. For his age, he looked damn sexy. With a smooth and lean build devoid of all hair and baby fat, yup, Naruto was dead sexy. Well, now aren't you a sexy beast? Anko smiled. Naruto's face quickly flushed from her comment. Do we have a mission? Naruto asked. Yup, so get dressed and pack for a week's mission. We are going to the land of wind, Anko said. Hi, Naruto nodded and passed by Anko to dress. Meet me at the gate in a half hour, Anko said before she vanished. Naruto couldn't beat down his blush from Anko seeing him only clad in a towel. He was happy he had decided to wear a towel and not simply walk out of his bathroom naked. Wonder what we are doing in the land of wind, Naruto thought to himself as he finished dressing and grabbed his gear. To say Naruto was worried was a massive understatement. He was going to meet another Jinchuriki. Would he be cool or crazy? Yup, this was probably going to end badly. Anko glanced over her shoulder, seeing a slightly worried look on Naruto's face. I know you're worried about meeting another Jinchuriki, Anko said as the three stopped. You don't need to be worried. You'll have your sensei and me there, Jiraiya said. Still going to be worried, Naruto said as the three started up again. We should be there in a few hours, Jiraiya said with a smirk. Anko slipped back to walk beside Naruto. Her arm wrapped around his shoulder getting him to blush lightly. Naruto glanced up at Anko seeing her smile softly. He wasn't sure what caused it, but he felt better knowing Anko was with him. Seeing Naruto smile lightly, Anko gave him another smile before she released him and they moved to catch up with Jiraiya. Both gave the aged shinobi an odd look seeing him writing in a little black book when they reached him. He hadn't slowed, but it was clear his complete focus was on the book. Anko wondered if it was the next Icha he was writing. She held back a smile remembering when she caught Kurenai reading the very series she chastised back Kakashi for reading. Jiraiya suddenly put all his work away and looked back at them. Let's pick up the pace a little, shall we? Jiraiya asked with a nod from both of them. They took off toward Suna. Back in Konoha, Sakura was completely red-faced. Her best friend, Ino, had found out she had a thing for Sai and would not stop picking on her about it. I mean, come on Sakura, look how pale he is, it's like he's never seen the sun or something. I'd half expect him to sparkle or something, Ino said with a joking voice. I get it, Sakura said starting to get angry. I don't think you do, Ino grinned. Shut up, Ino. Yes, I have a crush on Sai, I like dark-haired pale boys like him and Sasuke-kun. You may not but I do. Also, he's actually really nice to me, he's just bad at showing it, Sakura snapped now glaring at Ino. Do you really like him then? Ino asked still smirking. Yes. I like him more than Sasuke, so just deal with it, Sakura almost shouted. I think you'll have to deal with it before me, Ino said confusing Sakura until her friend pointed. Following her finger, Sakura's jaw just about hit the ground. There he was not 5 feet away. He'd probably heard the whole thing. Sai, Sakura said with a meek voice. Sai blinked a few times before a light blush came over his face and he quickly vanished. He blushed. Sakura, I think he likes you too, Ino said with a smirk. She looked to see Sakura had vanished as well. Rolling her eyes once more, Ino just left to find her teammates. Suna, Naruto laughed loudly as he sat with 2 of the kids of the Kazekage. His oldest Temari Fukma and second-born Kankram Fukma. Naruto liked them both. Kankram was a bit off since he was dressed in all black in a desert village. But he was still cool. Temari on the other hand was all around attractive to Naruto. What could he say? He liked older women. I have a question for you, Naruto, Temari said getting the blonde's undivided attention. Shoot, Naruto replied. Is it normal for a genin to have a solo sensei in Konoha or are you a special case? Temari asked. Special case. My first sensei ignored me and didn't put much into my training. I complained to Hokage and he decided it was best for me to have my own sensei. Anko was chosen because she had been asking to become a sensei. It's kind of a test for her, Naruto explained. Hokage? Are you guys really related? Kankram asked. No, he just helped me out a lot when I was little. I was an orphan thanks to the Kikbi's attack, Naruto said. About that, how did the Yondaime kill it? Temari asked. Suddenly Naruto's face changed and he sighed. He didn't, Naruto said giving them both a strange look. Temari got the hint instantly and Kankram followed a moment later. It sealed in you? They both asked in a hushed whisper. Naruto nodded. He was expecting the 2 to leave at a quick pace, but both stayed. So how are you not crazy? Kankram asked. My seal unlike your brother's is not just strong, it's the strongest there is. Powered by the Shinigami itself, Naruto said making both of them go slack-jawed for a moment. Temari was the first to regain herself. So do you think Jiraiya-sama can fix Gaara's seal? Temari asked. Naruto thought about it for a moment, then nodded. If anyone can, he can. He's the best Konoha has to offer in the way of Fuinjutsu, Naruto said as he kicked back, happy that the two didn't turn cold, learning he was a Jinchuriki. How long do you think it will take? They've been at it for what, 4 hours now? Kankurum asked. He's getting close, a voice said, startling the two. Naruto just smiled as his sensei appeared next to him, taking the open seat by him. Have there been any improvements yet? Temari asked. Yeah, he went from being held under to sleeping on his own and snoring, Anko said, letting them know that there was hope in the future from the broken family. Ahana bitches. Both Temari and Kankurum seemed happy knowing that their family might be savable. Anko looked to see Naruto smiling happily for the first time in a while. Sure, he smiled a lot more now, but this one was one of true acceptance. Meaning that Temari and Kankurum knew what he was and hadn't turned away from him. This was good. Naruto finally had a couple of good friends. Come on, Naruto. It's time we check out for the night. We'll have an early day back to the Leaf tomorrow. Naruto nodded and said his farewells. Jiraiya sat back with a long sigh. He gave a nod to Rasa, letting him know he was done. Rasa moved over to look at the new seal that covered his son's back. He was taken aback when he saw it was completely different. I had to completely rebuild the seal while you had the Shukaku out. There were contradicting seals and double redundant seals on top of each other. Now it's one cohesive seal, Jiraiya said as Gaara's eyes slowly opened. I can't hear mother anymore, he said with an air of relief. It felt like a massive weight had been taken from his shoulders. The deafening voice was gone, and with its dispatch, everything was clear. He looked at his father, seeing a genuine smile on his face. I think it is time I explained a lot to you, son, Rasa said, causing Gaara to look at him in shock. He had never been referred to as a son before. With a nod from Gaara, the two sat and began to talk. Jiraiya had already seen it was time for him to leave. The next morning came quickly and Naruto stood saying his goodbyes to Temari and Kankurum. He turned to Gaara, but before he could say anything he heard Gaara ask him a question. What is it you fight for, Uzumaki? You seem so much more powerful than I, Gaara asked. The people that are precious to me. Like my sensei, my friends in Konoha, and now you three, Naruto said. Gaara looked at him with wide eyes before he looked at his siblings. Jiraiya cleared his throat and the three left without another word. Temari, Kankurum, I'm sorry, Gaara said with closed eyes. He now knew it would be a long and difficult road to tread, but he would repair the damage to his family, and hopefully, they would become precious to him. 1 week later, Naruto laid his eyes closed, simply enjoying the gentle breeze that was running across the field he was in. He gave a contented sigh before he sat up, feeling a presence land in the field. Sleeping were we? Anko asked, looking at Naruto. Just a little, Naruto replied with a foxy smile. Well, I guess you have earned a little rest. Too bad it's over, Anko said. Naruto quickly flipped to his feet, ready for just about anything. What's wrong? Naruto asked quickly. We need to get to the land of waves, Anko said. What for? Naruto asked. Assassination mission, Anko said. Naruto's face fell slightly, he wasn't sure if he'd be good at assassination. The killing was fine with him, he came to terms with the fact that death was part of their lifestyle. Who's the target? Naruto asked. His name is Gato and he's a hell of a big shot, Anko explained. Gato Wade, as in the billionaire Gato. Isn't he kind of above my pay rate? Naruto asked. Usually yes, but the land of waves doesn't have much money, so they offered up other payments, and we accepted, Anko said. What other payments? Naruto asked. They've offered permanent trade routes, future students, a bridge named after the assassin, and just about anything else we want if they can get afforded, Anko said. You just want an Anko bridge, Naruto said with a grin. Anko matched him with a grin. Hell yeah, I can just see it now. The Great Anko Bridge, Anko laughed. I don't know, I think the Great Naruto Bridge sounds better, Naruto laughed with her. We'll just wait and see. Now go get your gear and let's move out, Anko said as the two both vanished, Anko in purple mist and Naruto with a swirl of orange mist. Two figures moved through a forest, both moved in perfect silence as they moved. They had been traveling for just about a full day to reach the land of waves. They needed to find out where their target was hiding and what kind of security he had. So why were we hired to kill Gato? Naruto asked. We don't need a reason. Just a name and a location, Anko replied. I understand that, but assassinating such a powerful man should not be a C-ranked mission, Naruto said as the two came to a stop. You want the real truth? Anko asked. When Naruto nodded, Anko sighed. We weren't hired to kill Gato, Anko started. A bridge builder by the name of Tazuna came to Konoha asking for protection. Hokage-sama gave him his protection, but after he checked out the land of waves more, he found the real threat. So he took it upon himself to rid the world of Gato, so no bridge, no trade, just an assassination, Anko finished. Once we kill Gato, can we see which team is protecting this Tazuna? Naruto asked. Sure, Anko said before the two took off again. Gato's base. A short fat man in a black suit walked through his base heading for his office. He grinned as he passed room after room of hired mercs. He was going to have Tazuna, Zabuza, and that boy Haku all killed by the end of tomorrow, and nothing would stop the plan he set forth. Reaching his office, he let his bodyguards wait outside while he went to work. "Once I get rid of this damned bridge, the land of waves will be mine forever," Gato laughed. His laughter died on his lips as he felt something sharp and cold touch his neck. He looked to see a mess of blonde hair and crystal blue eyes. "Speak a single word and you're dead," the blonde said. Gato quickly nodded, too afraid to speak. The blonde smiled before he spun the chair and pointed at the safe. Gato didn't hesitate to jump up and open it, hoping it would save his life. Once the safe was open, the blonde saw what he expected, a rather massive amount of money and several other very legal-looking papers. Looking to Gato, Naruto made a quick sweep and the man's head left his shoulders before he could scream. Anko laid back in a tree waiting for either Naruto to exit the compound or alarms to go off. She knew the one thing Naruto had was stealth. How else could he outrun and hide from Anbu? And she was right. Not even 2 minutes after he entered did she see a single figure slip out of a window and make its way towards her. She smiled, seeing a mess of blonde hair. "So how'd it go?" Anko asked. Naruto smiled and held up 2 scrolls. "What's the second?" Anko asked. "All the money he had in his safe, figured the land of waves could put it to use," Naruto said. Anko smiled and patted Naruto on the head. "Well, aren't you Mr. Nice Guy?" Anko laughed. "Come on, you said we could see what team was guarding Tazuna. I wanna check it out," Naruto said, getting a nod from Anko. "Okay, let's go," Anko said, and with that, the two vanished. In Konoha, Sasuke leaned against a tree as he watched Sakura. He was told by Kakashi to see her training. He had said she'd taken to her new training. If this was true, it was something Sasuke wanted to see. So far he wasn't impressed. She was just practicing her kunai throwing and her hand seal speed. He was just about to leave when he heard Sakura speak up. "You can come out now," Sakura said, causing Sasuke to freeze. Did she know he was there? "You're getting better," a voice replied. Sasuke looked to see Sai stepping out from behind a tree. "What kind of spar shall we do today?" Sakura asked. "Pure Taijutsu, let's see if we've fixed those holes," Sai said as a soft and real smile came over his face. "Want to make it interesting?" Sakura asked. "What were you thinking?" Sai asked. Sakura smiled before she spoke. "Loser treats the winner to all they can eat at their favorite restaurant," Sakura suggested. "Sounds fair, all I can eat tofu sounds nice," Sai said as he took his stance. Sakura quickly followed suit. What followed impressed Sasuke. For 15 minutes they fought and Sai only managed to hit Sakura 3 times. She was getting better and better. He felt jealousy rising in him seeing how she was improving. "Time's up," Sai said as he flipped backward. Sakura gave a long sigh before she smiled. "Looks like you won," Sakura said. "Yeah, 3-1, Sai replied. Once they were both dusted off, they left the training ground in the single least expected manner. Hand in hand, but that was after they shared a quick chaste kiss. To say Sasuke was shocked was an understatement. Apparently, without his noticing, one of his biggest fangirls not only moved on, she was now dating on top of it. Shaking his head once he tried to figure out why he cared. Once he couldn't figure out the reason he chose to take over the training ground and train for a while himself. Back and low, but the drunken burp, Tazuna sat taking a break from working on the bridge. He still couldn't believe that he got 3 kids and a woman to guard him. This was just unacceptable. He was just about to argue his point again when the girl in the group jumped up and took a stance. "Kurenai-sensei, we have 2 incoming fast," the girl said. "Can you tell who it is, Hinata?" Kurenai asked. "Not yet, their faces are hard to make out," Hinata replied. "I know that sentence, Naruto," Kiba said. And sure enough, after a few more seconds, a blonde mop of hair appeared on the bride. He smiled seeing who it was. "Anko-sensei. It's Yuhi-senpai," Naruto shouted. Kurenai cracked a grin seeing her best friend appear beside Naruto. "What are you two doing here?" Kurenai asked. "Okage-sama sent us to." Naruto stopped and looked up at Anko to make sure it was okay to talk about his mission. Once Anko nodded, Naruto finished his sentence. "Assassinate Gato." Tazuna's mouth dropped open hearing that. "And did you?" Tazuna asked. "Yup, I have proof of death in the scroll," Naruto said, holding up a scroll. "Proof of death?" Kiba asked. He was still shocked that Naruto was the first to kill and he didn't seem hung up on it. "Do you really want to know?" Naruto asked. After a moment the group shook their heads. "He's really gone?" Tazuna asked. Naruto gave a foxy smile and nodded. "So how's the mission going, Nai-chan?" Anko asked. "Clean and clear," Kurenai replied. Anko paused, slightly confused. That's actually a little surprising since Gato had a price on Tazuna's head," Anko said as she thought. "I'd have to guess whoever he hired is buying his time," Naruto replied. As if on cue, a heavy mist started to flow in. "Sensei, this mist has chakra in it," Hinata said in fear. Kurenai, Anko, and Naruto all quickly fell into a defensive stance, ready for anything. Or so they thought. Instead of an attack, the mist parted and a group of people stood before them. The first was a stunningly beautiful woman with long auburn hair and crystal blue eyes. She was dressed in a blue battle dress with high heels and shin guards. The second was a tall muscular man that had a large sword on his back. He was clad in black pants and a sleeveless shirt. The lower half of his face was completely hidden by white bandages. Just to his right was a masked figure wearing a brown hakama with a teal kozode. "Well shit," Anko said knowing they were outmatched. "We may get Tazuna to safety," Kurenai said. "There is nowhere safe," the woman said as she took a step forward. "And there is no pay for you here." "I killed Gato this morning," Naruto said. The group stopped hearing their payday was dead. "Well then," the woman paused before she smiled. "What's your name?" "Naruto Uzumaki," Naruto replied. Glancing over her shoulder, the group noticed two more men that weren't there only moments before. "Ow," the woman spoke. The man in question had light teal hair and wore an eye patch. Said man quickly pulled out a small book and looked through it. He gave a nod after a moment, causing the woman to smile. "Naruto Uzumaki, Jinchuriki for Konoha. Due to his appearance, most other villages believe he is an unknown child of the 4th Hokage," Ao spoke, causing Naruto, Anko, and Kurenai to freeze. Naruto looked to Anko then to Kurenai, and the look in their eyes instantly told him that he was indeed the 4th son. Why wasn't he told this? Why did they hide it from him? "Looks like he didn't know," the man with the large sword said with a laugh. Naruto glared at the man, his eye lit with rage. He was royally pissed now and needed to blow off some steam. "Naruto. Don't." Anko shouted a second too late. The boy vanished from view, making everyone gasp. "Zabuza. Above you." Ao shouted. Zabuza looked up just in time to see Naruto coming at him with an axe kick. Bringing his arm up to block the hit, Zabuza simply laughed right until the hit connected. Zabuza's eyes shot open as the sickening sound of his arm breaking rang out. "No way," Mei said as Zabuza threw Naruto back and his now broken arm fell to his side. "Who the fuck is this kid?" Zabuza asked, looking at his broken arm. He was pissed now. He had underestimated his foe and it cost him his arm for now. The group looked to see Naruto glaring at them, but his once blue eyes were now crimson and the marks on his face became more pronounced. His nails grew out as did his teeth, turning them into claws and fangs. Another flash and he was gone again. This time, however, he attacked the eye-patched man. Ao barely had time to dodge. He flipped back, making Naruto hit the ground. "He's using the fox's power," Mei said. But in Naruto's mind, why? Naruto screamed out as he punched a wall. Why was the question? Why didn't they tell him? Why, if he was the son of a Hokage, was he so hated? Was it all because of the fox? What did he do wrong? He couldn't answer a single one of the questions. Sighing slowly, he suddenly noticed he wasn't in the forest with his sensei anymore. "Where am I?" Naruto pondered out loud. He looked around, seeing it was in what looked like a sewer system. But what was odd to him was that the ground was covered in a layer of water that reached almost ankle deep. "So you've come?" A thunderous voice spoke. Naruto quickly spun to see simply the largest cage he'd ever seen. Within the cage, he could see only a large pair of red eyes. "You're the fox," Naruto said as the eyes vanished. He took a step forward to see if he could see the fox better. Instead of the fox, he saw a young woman in the cage. She had freakishly long orange hair and crimson eyes. She was clad in a red and orange kimono with a yellow obi sash. Behind her, 9 foxtails danced slowly. "I am the fox, yes," Naruto felt his jaw drop. Was this a jutsu? Or was this the fox's true form? "What's going on? You're not a giant fox," Naruto said as he looked at the woman. "No, I'm not." "Well, the fox is my true form. I can take this form to better talk with my host," the fox replied. "So you're a woman?" Naruto asked. "Would you prefer a man?" "I can do that if you'd prefer. As I have no actual gender. I am pure chakra," the fox replied. "Whatever you want," Naruto replied. "Then this form will work. Now you're here, what do you want?" the fox asked. "Is it true?" Naruto asked. "Yes," the fox replied. "You're the child of the 4th. Why didn't anyone tell me?" Naruto asked. "You'd have to ask the Hokage that one," the fox replied. Naruto took a slow breath, trying to calm his mind. "Wait, why are you being so calm and nice? I sort of expected you to be evil and whatnot," Naruto said. "Most people would assume that, but I'm quite the opposite. I'm actually rather docile most of the time. Unless I'm under the influence of a Jinjutsu by an Uchiha," the fox explained. "So wait, and Uchiha controlled you the night you attacked Konoha?" Naruto asked. "I'm actually surprised you figured that out so fast," the fox replied with a light laugh. Naruto shook his head. Nothing seemed right at the moment. "We can talk more later, perhaps you should return to your world," the fox said, sending Naruto from his mind. Back in the real world, Naruto blinked a few times only to see Anko's breasts in his face. She was holding him. His face very quickly started to go red. "Anko-sensei?" Naruto looked up at his sensei. A look of relief was instantly plastered across her face. "Oh, thank heavens you're back," Anko said before she let him go. It was now that Naruto understood what she meant. The area around them was trashed. Trees were toppled and craters littered the ground, but what was oddly the funniest thing was the bridge was completely unharmed, not even a scratch. "Was this all me?" Naruto asked. "You, Mei, and Zabuza pushed them back. Your tails started to form and they ditched," Anko explained. "Anko-sensei. You're hurt," Naruto shouted, seeing a rather nasty gash along Anko's side. Placing her hand over it, she shrugged. "Things happen," Anko replied. Naruto dropped to his knees looking at the cut. He knew it was his fault. "I promise this will never happen again," Naruto said. Anko just laughed and brought him back into her arms. "Don't make promises you can't keep," Anko said as she pressed Naruto's face into her bust. She looked down to see why she hadn't got a response. Only to see Naruto smiling happily with hearts in his eyes and a trail of blood coming down from his nose. "Anko-sensei," Naruto mumbled from his bliss-filled state. Anko just started to laugh seeing that he'd passed out. "Come on Gaki, let's get you someplace nicer than this," Anko said as the two vanished in a swirl of purple mist. Naruto stood before Hiruzen with a very serious look on his face. Hiruzen rubbed his brow for a moment, then took a slow breath. He calmed his mind before he looked at Naruto with a saddened face. He could tell Naruto was very, very mad with him, and for good reason too. "Naruto, I understand you are upset with me. But I hope you are willing to listen to me before making your judgment," Hiruzen said. "I'm still here, aren't I?" Naruto almost growled. Hiruzen nodded and cleared his throat once. "It is true. You are the child of Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki. Your father sealed the fox into so he could save the village," Hiruzen started. "Your mother was the fox's previous host. The night of your birth someone ripped the fox from her and turned it on the village. Once a tailed beast has been removed from their vessel," said Vesseled Eyes. "No acceptations. Your mother managed to hold off her death through sheer willpower, but she was fading fast. So with the help of your father, they sealed the fox into you to save the village. Your father's final wish was for you to be treated as a hero. But obviously, that didn't happen. The council decided it was best if you didn't know who your parents were or that you were the vessel of the fox until you were either 16 years of age or a chunin. This was one of the things I feared you find out while out of the village," Hiruzen finished. "Truth be told Hokage, I'm not really that mad with you. But I just can't accept that you didn't think I should know this stuff. You should have told me when I was old enough to understand, perhaps when I entered the academy," Naruto said as he shook his head. "I understand your disappointment, Naruto. I just hope you can find it in your heart to forgive me eventually. But for now, go home, cool off and think this over. I'll send an Anbu over later with some stuff you should have gotten by now," Hiruzen said. Naruto nodded and left in a swirl of orange mist. "Okage-sama," Anko spoke up, reminding the aged man that she was in fact in the room. "Oh, I am sorry Anko, I forgot you were here. Perhaps it would be better if you took this stuff to Naruto," Hiruzen said as he stood and walked over to the wall. Placing his hand on it, he funneled some chakra forward and a moment later a latch popped open and out came a large box. "What's in it?" Anko asked. "Naruto inheritance," Hiruzen replied. "It has the bank pins to his parents' accounts, his mother's Kenjutsu, Taijutsu, and Ninjutsu scrolls along with his father's scrolls on the Rasengan, Hiraishin, and the ingredients to his favorite poisons." Anko nodded and took the box before she vanished in her purple mist. Kakashi walked down a road, his mind drifting as he moved. His genin team was all but gone. Sasuke was on probation, Naruto had Anko for a sensei now, Sakura was being taught at the hospital, and Sai, well, he was a little spy. He stopped when the Hokage's monument came into view. He stood for a moment looking at the face of his sensei. "I've done you a great dishonor, haven't I?" he asked out loud. Ignoring his sensei's son just because he was asked to keep an eye on Sasuke, that boy was a flight risk if he'd ever seen one, and now it seemed Naruto hated him. With a sigh, he vanished in a swirl of leaves. He needed to have a conversation with the Hokage. Naruto's apartment. Anko knocked softly on the door to Naruto's apartment. Normally she would just burst in and do whatever she wanted. But right now Naruto was hurting and he might need some solo time to heal. So she was ready to be told he wanted to be alone. Instead, the door opened and she was suddenly embraced by her genin. She looked down to see he had clearly been crying. Without another word she moved Naruto into his apartment and closed the door. "What's wrong, Gaki?" Anko asked as she patted Naruto's head. "I just don't get it. Why does everyone hate me when the fourth asked for them to accept me?" Naruto said as he pulled back from Anko. "People make their own choices. Sometimes they are just fools and wrong," Anko said as she set down the box and pulled Naruto back into her arms, giving him a full hug. "Sensei, did you hate me too?" Naruto asked. "No, I never saw you as anything other than Naruto," Anko said truthfully. It was the only thing Orochimaru taught her that she was proud of. To never judge someone until you know them. "Thank you, Sensei," Naruto said as the two pulled apart again. "No problem, Gaki." Now then to the subject at hand, Anko placed a hand on the box she had brought with her. "This is your inheritance. Look through it or not, it's up to you. I let you have off tomorrow to rest, but be ready to kick your training into high gear after that, got it, Anko said. Naruto nodded as a smile came to his face. You got it, sensei, Naruto said with a big foxy smile. Anko patted him on the head and then vanished. Naruto sat down and rather quickly opened the box. Rubbing his chin for a moment, he tried to pick out something to start with. He decided to go with a thick black scroll that said Fuinjutsu on it. He knew his father was freakishly good at it. So maybe he would be. Anko's apartment. Anko sat on her bed as she debated over trying to talk to a certain snake. Without letting herself get nervous or second-guessing, she quickly rolled through her hand signs and spoke the ever-familiar words. Kuchius no jutsu. With a puff of smoke, a large white snake appeared before her. The snake looked around for a few moments before looking at Anko. Why have you summoned me? You know Manda doesn't let people sign our contract anymore, the white snake said. No, I need you to set up a meeting with Manda and me. I want my genin to sign the contract and I will get him to agree, Anko said as she kept her cool, knowing that one wrong move and she would lose her right to summon snakes. The white snake paused for a moment before he finally nodded. I will see what I can do, the snake said before he vanished. Anko let the breath she had been holding go and dropped back onto her bed. Taking another slow breath, she let herself drift off to a nap. 2 days later, Anko was worried. Naruto hadn't shown up for training. He never missed training. Something was very wrong. She moved through the village at her fastest pace, heading straight for his apartment. She slowed for a moment, seeing Kakashi standing before Sakura. The only reason this caught her attention was it looked like Kakashi was nervous about something. Shaking her head, she refocused on finding Naruto. Leaping to the top of a building, she gave a sigh seeing Naruto's apartment. There was no outward sign of damage or vandalism. Now she was simply getting mad. Did he skip training on her? Landing on his small balcony, she found she couldn't see inside. The windows were all covered with paper. Opening the door, she noticed one thing right away. It wasn't normal paper. This was all the Fuinjutsu testing paper. The paper was made to absorb chakra easier so a beginner in Fuinjutsu could get used to the art. Naruto? Anko called out, not seeing him right away. She stopped when she saw the last thing she'd expect. Books. They were everywhere. Grabbing one off the top of the pile, she found it was on Fuinjutsu. Actually, all of them were. Wait, so he's been studying? Anko thought to herself. After placing the book back down, she moved through the apartment, managing to dodge piles and piles of papers and books. She figured he had to be in his bedroom. Looking around as she moved through the cluttered apartment, she was amazed to see all of the Fuinjutsu she could see was very advanced rather than basic level stuff. She finally reached the bedroom door and opened it. And sure enough, there he was at a desk. When did he get a desk? Either way, there he was at the desk, hard at work on something. Naruto, Anko called out. All she got in return was a grunt and a mumble about something almost being perfect. Naruto? Anko shouted this time. What, who? Naruto shot up, looking around. Anko's face froze seeing his. He didn't look like he had slept in days and he had ink all over himself. What are you doing? Anko asked. I like Fuinjutsu, it's like really easy to understand, Naruto said as he started to look through a few piles before he pulled out a paper bomb. Anko looked, seeing it was deactivated as it held no chakra in it. Okay, so it's a paper bomb, Anko said. Not quite. See, a normal paper bomb just goes boom and that's it. This paper bomb will seep the chakra into the item or object it's on before it goes off. So instead of simply surface damage, you get internal damage too. Kinda like if you hold a cherry bomb in your hand versus holding it in your fist, Naruto explained before he pulled out another seal. This one was massively more complex. Now this little puppy is all sorts of awesome. I call it the cleanse seal. It's still a work in progress, but once it's done it can be used to remove unwanted things from a person. Such as poisons, drugs, curse seals. Anko's eyes went wide with those words. Excuse me? Anko asked. It's still a work in progress, but I hope once it's done I can remove your curse seal, Naruto said as he rubbed his eyes. He suddenly noticed he was very tired. Do you have any idea how advanced this stuff you're dabbling in is? Anko asked. Of course I do. That's why none of this stuff is going to be tested with anyone nearby. It will all be handled with shadow clones and cadavers, Naruto replied. Anko shook her head before she looked to see a pestle and motor. Were you making poisons? Anko asked. Yeah, that's what just about half this research is on. I never knew poisons could be so useful. I mean neurotoxins that target muscles or nerves so you can capture rather than kill, Naruto said as he held up a vial of red fluid. What's that? Anko asked. It's my first creation. I call it foxfire poison. It's odorless, tasteless, and dissolves in water. But if you ingest it you die rather painfully too, at least in theory. Another thing I need to find a way to test, Naruto said. Enough for now, get cleaned up and get some sleep. You haven't slept in a while I'd assume, Anko said. Naruto begrudgingly complied and moved off to his bathroom. Anko leaned against the wall while he cleaned up. She wasn't going to give him a chance to slip back into his new obsession. Several weeks later, it had been a little over a month since Naruto started down his path on Fuinjutsu and Dakijutsu, the art of poisons, and in both Hiruzen and Jiraiya's examination, he was already nearing master level. The stuff just came easy to him just like it did his father. But now there was a much more pressing issue for Naruto and Anko. The two found themselves before the Hokage. I'm going to make this short and sweet. I'm sending you with Kakashi to find Team Guy that has gone missing during their mission into the land of rice fields, Hiruzen explained. I've already debriefed Kakashi, so you are to meet him at the gates and head out as soon as possible. Hi, Naruto and Anko said in unison before they both vanished in a swirl of mist, heading to get their gear and meet up with Kakashi at the gates. Kakashi stood at the gates fully prepped for their rescue mission. The only time Kakashi was always on time, even early in some cases, was when a friend needed him. Turning his head he saw a swirl of purple mist, and Anko appeared an instant later, an orange swirl went off, and Naruto appeared. Let's go, Kakashi said, and the three took off at max pace. Naruto, did you leave them? Anko asked. Yup, can't take any chances, Naruto replied. Kakashi was rather surprised that Naruto was keeping up with them so well. At the pace they were going it would only take them about a day to reach the land of rice fields. Sooner if Naruto was able to keep up with them. Sensei, Naruto spoke out, gaining both of the Jonin's attention. Anko saw the look in Naruto's eyes and then gave a nod. You know the rules, this is one of the exceptions, Anko said. Kakashi wasn't sure what they were talking about. Naruto suddenly smiled brightly. Just wait until they see me, Naruto said as he suddenly picked up speed. Kakashi couldn't help but smile. Whatever Anko had done with Naruto had made the young boy into a splendid shinobi. Within the land of rice fields, a singular figure stood outside a base that looked eerily like a snake's den. It sunk into the ground and became dark almost instantly. The figure was a young silver-haired man. He cracked his back once before he started to walk away. It was time for him to meld back into Konohagakure's system so he could take the Chunin exams. He was positive this year he would have something to entertain him. 3 figures landed on a tree at the last known location of Team Guy. It had been a little over a day since the 3 were sent to find the mission team. They had made good time, but they still had to deal with a cold trail. Kakashi looked at the camp. It appeared to be where they were captured. He knew it was captured as there were several bodies, but none of them belonged to Team Guy. Sensei, I found something, Naruto said as he pulled a torn piece of bandage out of the ground. It was heavily stained with blood and dirt. That's Guy's good job, Naruto, Kakashi said as he quickly summoned Pakin. It didn't take long for the dog to find the scent even after this long. It's weak but I got it, Pakin said. The group was just about to take off when Naruto stumbled backward. What's wrong? Kakashi asked. We don't have time for this, Anko said worriedly. I need a minute sorry, Naruto said before he sat and closed his eyes. He's talking to the fox, Kakashi said with a wide eye. Seems so, they had their first formal meeting in the land of waves, Anko said. Within Naruto's mind, Naruto looked at the maiden form of the Kikbi. Just like the first time, it was using the same or rather beautiful appearance. But this time the fox seemed almost antsy. What's up? Naruto asked. I don't like this land of rice fields, something doesn't feel right here, the great fox said. What do you mean by that? Naruto asked. I want to give you a gift. Just to calm me, the fox said. What kind of gift? Naruto asked with caution. Nothing major, just a jutsu, the fox said as one of its tails came out of the cage and poked him on the forehead. You'll know how to use it now but keep it a secret, Naruto blinked a few times as his mind was suddenly given all the information on this new jutsu. Okay thanks, Naruto said blinking a few times. Another moment passed and he was outside of his mind again. Let's get going. I'll explain later, Naruto said. And with that, the 3 took off to find the missing team. Naruto said nothing about why he and the Kikbi wanted to talk, but he also knew that Anko and Kakashi were both worried about it. A half hour later, Naruto, Anko, and Kakashi stopped seeing Pakin had found a strange base. It was partially buried in the ground. The good news was Guy's scent was in there. Bad news so was what Pakin called the foulest smell he'd ever come by. So how do we want to proceed? Anko asked looking at Kakashi. Can you send a snake in to look around? Kakashi asked. Anko nodded and several snakes slid out of her coat and down into the base. Sensei, I have a bad feeling about this place, Naruto said as he stared into the base. Anko was just about to talk when her head snapped back to the base and she took off inside. Naruto and Kakashi quickly followed them. Sensei, what's wrong? Naruto asked. It's his base, Anko said as she ran through the base. Shit, this is bad, Kakashi said as she pulled up his hit-8 and readied for anything. Naruto nodded in agreement and then suddenly just stopped, causing both Kakashi and Anko to almost fall as they stopped too. Why did you stop? Kakashi asked. That's why, Naruto pointed. The two jonin looked to where he was pointing to see none other than Guy chained up and unconscious. Kakashi practically flew over to Guy. Guy, are you okay? Kakashi said, slowly getting Guy to come to. Kakashi? Where am I? Guy asked. You and your team were captured by Orochimaru, Kakashi said. Guy's eyes fully opened as he remembers what had happened and how he and his team were captured. We were resting for the night. The last thing I remember was a purple mist, then blackness. It happened faster than even I could register, Guy said as he easily snapped the chains holding him. One, we need to find your team, Anko said as the four quickly started to move. They looked through the base but found it to be far too massive to search in a group, so against their better judgment they split up. Anko didn't like the idea of leaving Naruto alone in the base, but they needed to get in and get out as fast as possible. With Naruto used all of the stealth he had to move through the darkened halls. He stopped when the jutsu that the Kyuubi had given him finally made sense. Rolling through a few hand signs, Naruto grinned and spoke. Bapm? Ankakukai no Urukumasu 1, Naruto said. It only took a moment for him to feel the effects. He suddenly sunk into the shadow of the wall. Welcome to the shadow world, Naruto, the Kyuubi's voice spoke. Naruto looked around, seeing everything was the same, but somehow different. How does this place work? Naruto asked. You can move freely throughout any place without being seen, heard, smelt, or touched. But you can't affect anything either. You have to use the jutsu again to leave the shadow world and regain your ability to hurt those not in the shadow world, the Kyuubi explained. Naruto nodded and started his search once more. But now he feared nothing as he casually walked through the halls. He looked into each room trying to find any of Guy's genin. Then the idea hit him. Hajikage Bushin no Jutsu, Naruto spoke as around 50 Narutos came into existence in the shadow world. Spread out, find Rock Lee, Tenten, or Niji Hikta. Disperse if you find one, Naruto commanded. And with that, the entire clone army took off to find the missing genin. Naruto on the other hand decided to look and see if he could find any treasure. With Anko moved swiftly but was also greatly frustrated. She didn't like leaving Naruto alone in such a place. And to add to her annoyance, she couldn't find any of the missing genin. But she had managed to find several shinobi, they all died of course. Anko slowed, starting to feel exhausted. Figuring she would rest a bit in the next room, she opened the door and froze dead. The room was full of bodies. Each one was experimented on in some way and none of them were full bodies. Parts were missing for each body. Anko closed the door quickly, unable to believe what she had just seen. She knew her old master was a monster, but she never guessed he was that bad. Shaking her head, she started to move again in hopes she would find one of the genin alive. Back with Naruto. Naruto slipped out of the shadow realm after he found a room that interested him. It was full of jars and weird trophies. But what caught his attention was a small stale blue-colored ring with the kanji for void on it. What made it so strange to Naruto was that it was on an old decrepit hand. Naruto quickly slipped the ring off the finger and slipped back into the shadow realm to look at the ring. Well, this is strange, but I kinda like it, Naruto thought as he slipped the ring on his left pinky finger. He was surprised to see it resized itself to fit on his finger. Pulling it off, he looked at the inner ring and sure enough, there was a resizing seal on it. With a satisfied nod, he slipped the ring back on and left the room. Once he left the room, he felt a clone disperse and took off, knowing the clone had found the genin. He reached the room in no time and slipped into finding a guard opening the gate to the room Tenten was in. Well, now girlie, ready to have some fun? The guard asked. Try anything and I'll kill you, Tenten growled. I like them feisty, the guard laughed. I'll enjoy breaking you. Naruto moved behind him and exited the shadow realm. Tenten's eyes went wide as she watched a figure rise out of the man's shadow, a tanto in hand. The guard tilted his head, seeing a grin come to Tenten's eyes. What's so funny, girl? He asked. His eyes snapped wide when he heard a voice whisper into his ear. She's smiling because she knows you're dead, Naruto said as he plunged his tanto through the man's back and out his chest, impaling his heart and killing him instantly. Once he removed his tanto, Naruto looked to see Tenten smiling at him. Boy, am I ever glad to see that hit I ate, Tenten said with a sigh of relief. Naruto nodded and placed a finger on a transmitter on his neck. Inu, Hibi, Kame, come in, Naruto spoke. Did you find them? Kame's voice quickly spoke. Yes, come to my location. They are hurt but alive and stable, Naruto replied. Well done, Kitsune, the voice of Hibi replied. Within 2 minutes, Guy, Kakashi, and Anko all appeared in the room to see Niji, Lee, and Tenten all resting but free of their restraints. Are they okay? Guy asked. I'll survive, Niji said. I've been better, Tenten replied with a smile. My flames of youth have been dampened but not extinguished, Guy-sensei, Lee said, and he got to his feet. Then we should get out of here with all due haste, Naruto said. The group all agreed and they all left with each of the jonin carrying a genin against their will so they could go top speed. They all wanted to get as far away from the base as they could. The group came to a stop when they saw a figure standing at the exit of the base. The figure was a young boy with white hair and teal eyes. He wore a loose-fitting long-sleeved shirt, black pants, and a rope belt. 2 red dots adorned his head. "You are not allowed to leave," the figure said. "I can take him," Naruto said. "Like hell, just let one of us take him out," Anko said. "Anko, he says he can do, let's let him do it," Guy said, placing a hand on Anko's shoulder. Anko glared at Guy but gave in and let Naruto move in front of the Jonin. "Pick his ass and catch up fast," Anko said. Naruto nodded and the Jonin shot past. The white-haired boy didn't even manage to try and attack before they were past him. Turning his attention back to Naruto, the two squared off. "Time to have some fun," Naruto said as he readied for the fight of his life. Naruto stood face to face with the white-haired boy. Neither of them had moved. Obviously, both were waiting for the other to go first. The white-haired boy pointed a finger at Naruto. Naruto was just about to speak when he saw a bone shoot out of his finger. His eyes shot wide with shock. He hadn't seen that coming, so the bone, sure enough, hit him dead on, but lucky it was just his shoulder. "Was that your bone?" Naruto asked. The boy simply nodded. "That's weird," Naruto said as he drew his tanto. Naruto charged forward only to see the boy draw a sword out of his shoulder. Tanto and bone blade clashed. Naruto had the greater strength and shot the white-haired boy back. "Your blade is broken," Kimimaro said, making Naruto look to see he was right. He won the battle of strength, but his sword was heavily cracked. "I'm down to kunai and my taijutsu," Naruto said as he took a strange stance. "Your," Kimimaro started to say before Naruto vanished and smashed his hand into Kimimaro's chest, throwing him out of the hall and into the small clearing in front of the base. "Pays Rick. Rep SHM1, Naruto said as wind chakra danced around his hand. Jumping into the clearing, Naruto ready to start round 2. Kimimaro stood up showing no damage as his bones had come to the surface of his skin and absorbed the damage. "Like Kekkei Genkai protects me," Kimimaro said as he dropped his sword and grabbed his neck. Naruto felt sick to his stomach for a moment as he watched the boy pull out his spine, making it into a whip. "Pays Rick. Repcal SHKT2, Naruto said as he spread out his fingers and wind chakra started to dance around each one. Kimimaro said nothing and charged in with his whip. Naruto expertly dodged a whip and planted his fingers on the boy's chest. "Pays Rick. Repcal SHKT, Kai 3, Naruto shouted. Kimimaro's eyes shot wide as his bone armor did little to stop the freakish power burst of wind that emitted from the blonde's fingers. Just as the first attack, Kimimaro found himself sailing through the air. This time, however, he smashed into a tree. He looked to see Naruto still in the same stance. Looking down at his body, he was bleeding. His Kekkei Genkai hadn't been able to completely take the hit. "You're far stronger than I had expected," Kimimaro said as a strange black pattern started to etch its way over the boy's body. But Anko, Guy, and Kakashi. Anko, Kakashi, and Guy all jumped through the forest. That was until Anko all but collapsed in pain. She grabbed her shoulder as she writhed in pain. She hadn't felt her curse mark flare up like this in ages. She knew why too. It meant he was near. "He's close, Orochimaru is close," Anko said as she gasped in pain. "Bukuku that I am," Orochimaru's voice answered as the aforementioned man rose out of the ground. "Now then, I hadn't even started my experimentation on you. What do you want with me and my team?" Guy asked. "You're Genin and you have something I'd like to test. Your 8 gates, the Hyuga's eyes, and your little clone. Now he is the most interesting. I wanted to see what I could do with a non-existent chakra system," Orochimaru said as he looked at the 2 standing Genin. "We won't let you touch them," Kakashi and Guy said together. "You really want to fight me?" Orochimaru asked. "To protect what is precious to me, of course," Guy replied. Kakashi remained silent as he charged at Chidori. Orochimaru smiled as he saw the 2 men getting ready to fight him with everything they had. He was more than confident that he could fight them. But his limited knowledge on the 8 gates held him back. "You seem to be missing one," Orochimaru said. "He's taking care of your white-haired boy," Kakashi said. "Then he's as good as dead." "Kimimaro is a member of the Kagaya clan and has a very deadly Kekkei Genkai," Orochimaru said with his ever-existent sneer. Anko clawed at the ground trying to fight the pain in her shoulder. She wouldn't let this curse seal beat her. Not when Naruto needed her. "Oh my, you've gotten stronger, I see," Orochimaru laughed as he watched Anko struggle to her feet. Her eyes burned with rage as she looked at Orochimaru. "Either fight us or leave," Guy said as he ready to open his gates. "I think I'll pass. Fighting the 2 of you might hurt a fair deal," Orochimaru laughed. "By the time you let people know that I have a base here, it will be gone. So enjoy your hollow victory," Orochimaru added as he sunk into the ground. Anko felt the pain in her shoulder subside instantly. Sparing only a glance to the other Genin, she took off to find Naruto. But Naruto crashed into a tree and slumped to the ground. This weird white-haired kid had suddenly gotten stronger and uglier. His first set of weird marks didn't do much. He got faster and stronger, but that was about it. His K's Rick was more than enough to beat him. But now the kid had changed even more. His once pale white skin had turned an earthy brown. He had bone spikes coming out of his back and tail. Yeah, he grew a tail too. What the fuck kind of Jutsu is that, Naruto wondered. Struggling to his feet, he took his stance for his K's Rick again. But this time the stance had changed again. It's useless to try and fight me, Kimimaro said as he charged forward with his large bone spear. As he reached Naruto, he felt a powerful rush of wind, followed by Naruto's palm smashing into his stomach. K's Rick. Lurep, SHM Tatsu. 4 Naruto shouted. Kimimaro coughed up blood as he shot through the air and through several trees. He was seriously starting to dislike this K's Rick that the blonde had. Getting to his feet once more, he charged at Naruto only to stop seeing Naruto was in the same stance. He knew he'd need a new tactic to reach the blonde. Thinking quickly, Kimimaro spun, launching a few bones from his tail at the blonde. Naruto flipped out of the way but found himself right in the bone user's trap. Before he could return to his stance, the deformed kid was on him. Ah! Naruto cried out as Kimimaro plunged a bone sword into Naruto's shoulder. Pulling his arm back, Kimimaro left the blade in Naruto's shoulder to hold him in spot as he ready to end the fight. Making another sword, he pointed right between Naruto's eyes. As to be expected. I was trained by Orochimaru. You were a good fight, but in the end, the outcome was to be expected, Kimimaro said as he pulled his blade back. I'm not done yet, Naruto said as he brought his leg up and let the bone blade stab into his leg. Naruto managed to hold back his scream of pain, but only just. Postponing will do nothing, Kimimaro said. It allowed me to gather enough wind chakra to do this, Naruto said as he pointed 2 fingers at Kimimaro. K's Rick. Shigeki K's no Yaiba. 5 Naruto shouted as the wind chakra that had wrapped around his fingers shot forward and tore through Kimimaro's head, leaving a gaping hole. Naruto dropped backward with a satisfied smile before he looked at his hands. Both were heavily damaged from the use of the K's Rick. But his pointer and middle finger were the worst. He knew using the Shigeki K's no Yaiba would hurt, but not this bad. He could hardly feel his hands. Dropping them to his sides, he looked to his shin where the boy's blade still stuck out. He tried to move, then grunted. He had forgotten the blade in his shoulder for a moment. Looks like I can't catch up, Naruto said as he closed his eyes. He figured he'd bleed to death before anyone friendly could find him. But it seemed like Kami smiled down on him. Naruto. Naruto's eyes slowly opened as he saw Anko land in the clearing. She ran over to him, seeing he was bleeding heavily. Anko-sensei, Naruto said as he looked at his sensei. You fool, you should have let one of us take care of the boy, Anko said as she looked to see the body of the boy. She couldn't lie, that was one dead body. Turning back to Naruto, she saw him smiling up at her. Here, I thought I was a goner, Naruto said as he watched Anko pulling out the basic medical supplies she had. Without warning or even the slightest signal, she grabbed both bone blades and pulled them out. Of course, Naruto shouted all sorts of vulgarity as she did. That's what you get for going all lone wolf on me, Anko said before she started to gauze and wrap his wounds. You know, you really look like an angel right now, Naruto said. Anko rolled her eyes but wasn't able to stop a small blush from coming to her cheeks. Just stay still, Anko said. There you are, the voice of Guy echoed out lightly as the group landed. Hey, Kame-san, Bakakashi, Lil Kame, Buns, and Pale Force are here, Naruto said, making all 5 stops with a pause. Buns, oh, that better be about my hair, Tenten said with a light growl. Of course it is, Naruto said as he tried to stand only for Anko to push him back down. I said stay still, Anko said as she started to wrap his shin. Naruto simply nodded and remained still until Anko finished wrapping his shin and shoulder. It appears that you had a most youthful fight here, Lee said as he looked at the now burning body of Kimimaro. Kakashi had quickly chosen to roast the body so Orochimaru couldn't have it. Naruto was allowed to sit up while Anko started to wrap up his hands. Guy quickly noticed the damage and knew what would have caused that. I thought we had agreed you'd only use the K's Rick as a last resort, Guy said looking at Naruto, who nodded. Unfortunately, it was my last resort. He broke my Tanto with a single hit. My shadow clones proved useless as he dispatched them as fast as I could make them. So my only choice was K's Rick. It worked, but I had to resort to the Yaiba, Naruto explained. I let it go since I don't see you lying about something like this. We'll have to get your hands examined better once we get back to the village, Guy said. Why is the K's Rick so bad, Guy-sensei? Tenten asked. Each of the Genso Ken styles has drawbacks to them. High Rick leaves bad burns, Tsuchi Rick damages the bones, Kaminari Rick damages the nerves, Mizu Rick weakens blood flow, and K's Rick damages the skin and muscles. Prolonged use of any will cause irreversible damage to the user's hands, Guy explained. Why use them then? Niji asked. The true master of the styles takes a significantly less amount of damage and can deal out a devastating amount of damage, Kakashi answered before Guy could. So where does Naruto's skill set? Anko asked. She needed to know mainly because she knew next to nothing about the Genso Ken. He's progressing well, so I'd put him at an intermediate level, Guy said as he looked at the damage Naruto had to his hands. Naruto, what's this? Anko asked, seeing the ring on Naruto's left pinky. Oh, I found that in the snake's base. It looked kinda cool, so I snagged it, Naruto replied. Anko simply shook her head and wrapped his hand. Once Naruto was fully wrapped up, the group ready to move. Naruto smiled as he had managed to defeat a strong foe, steal a cool-looking ring, and soon he would have an S-rank mission on his mission record. Yup, this was a win for him. Man, I'm lucky, maybe I should buy a lotto ticket, Naruto thought as the group moved towards Konoha. Anko couldn't believe how she felt. After feeling that she might have lost her only student, she felt only one thing. Fear. She didn't want to lose Naruto. She already knew she cared far more for Naruto than she should. Anko, you there? Kakashi asked. What? Anko said as she zoned in. We need to set up camp for a rest. The genin, Naruto especially, need to rest for a bit, Kakashi said. Oh yeah, sounds good, Anko said. With that, the group stopped to rest. They knew it would be a short rest, so all four genin quickly settled down and fell asleep. Naruto of course was asleep almost instantly, thanks to his exhausting fight with Kamimuro. Anko stayed on high alert. She didn't believe that her former sensei wouldn't try to get revenge. He seemed to hold whoever the boy was in high regard, and now he was dead. So she wasn't going to drop her guard for a moment. Anko, about your mark, Kakashi spoke. Not now, Anko said quickly. She wasn't going to go into that here. Maybe back in Konoha with someone she trusted more. But here and now was not an option. Kakashi narrowed his eye. He didn't like that Anko was so affected by her curse mark. Anko-sensei, Naruto suddenly sat up, his eyes wide. A wide grin came to his face as he looked at his sensei. Okay, now I'm worried, Anko said, seeing his smile. I think I might have figured out what my seal was missing, Naruto said as he was suddenly full of energy. What seal? Tenten asked, now interested in the conversation. This can all be talked about later. When we aren't in hostile territory, Anko said. Anko is right. We should get moving, Kakashi said. My eternal rival is right. We should get moving and get back to Konoha, Guy said with his trademark smile. Then let's go, Naruto said as the group got up and ready to start moving again. A while later, it took the group only a day to get out of the land of rice fields. But they knew they had to stop and rest before they'd be able to reach home. And sure enough, when nightfall came, the group set up a cold camp. Kakashi had volunteered to take the first watch, knowing that Guy would just think it was a challenge to try and be the watch for the whole night. Anko had chosen to pull Naruto aside so the two could have a private chat. Naruto assumed he was still in trouble, of course. Naruto, about that fight of yours, Anko started. I know, I'm sorry, I should have let one of your handles him. But I really wanted to show that your training made me strong, Naruto said as he looked at the ground. Naruto, you don't have to do that to prove you're strong, Anko said. I know, sensei. I was hoping if I could beat someone that the bastard had trained I would, Naruto started before he blushed heavily. Anko got a little red too, knowing what he was going to say. You thought that would impress me? Naruto, I don't want you trying to do that. I want you safe and alive, Anko said. Naruto continued to look down, unable to look his sensei in the eye. He was ashamed of himself. He froze when Anko suddenly hugged him. You can't win me over if you're dead, Anko said, causing Naruto to flush even more. You say that like I have the chance to do it, Naruto said with a smile. Of course you do. You are a young handsome boy who will grow into a strong handsome man. As long as you don't do something stupid like that again, Anko said. Sensei, Naruto spoke softly. What? Anko asked. He had that look in his eyes. The look that seriously made her think the little guy was thinking of the most perverted thing he could. When we get home, could we go to the hot springs? Naruto asked with a beet red face. I don't know. I'm upset that you thought you had to fight by yourself, but you did win that fight, Anko said while rubbing her chin. She glanced to see Naruto looking at her with hope. She almost wanted to laugh seeing it. The kid really was a little pervert, well, at least when it came to her nowadays. Please, sensei, Naruto said while doing his best to give his sensei the biggest brightest eyes he could. Oh fine, I guess we can, Anko said, making Naruto almost shout in joy. He would have had they not been trying to keep a low profile. You're such a perv, you know that, right, Anko said. Hey, I am not, Naruto shot back. Oh yeah, then what are you? Anko asked. I'm an ankoholic, Naruto said, causing a deadpan look from Anko. You're such a dumbus, Anko said before she laughed lightly. Yeah, and I could be your dumbus, Naruto said. Trying a little hard there, aren't ya? Anko asked, making Naruto display his trademark foxy smile. Maybe a little, Naruto said. Let's go get some rest, Anko said while shaking her head. The next afternoon, the group had made it home, and thus the rescue mission was a success. But the moment Orochimaru was involved, the mission was upgraded to an S-ranked one. Naruto was overly hyped that he now had an S-ranked mission under his belt. But now something much better was happening. He was at the hot springs with his sensei. Yup, Naruto felt like one lucky son of a bitch. With a wide grin, he stood in his changing room. He was really hoping he'd be lucky enough to have another towel dropping experience. Man, I wish I knew how to make sensei see how much I care about her, Naruto thought. Why don't you just bend her over and take her? The voice of the Kikbi echoed out. I would never force myself on her, Naruto replied instantly. Who knows, she might love it, the Kikbi replied. Not happening. Now shut it, I wanna enjoy the waters, Naruto replied as he wrapped his towel around his waist and entered the hot spring. He smiled seeing his sensei was already there clad in only a towel. Naruto barely managed to pull his eyes away. There you are, Anko said with a smile. Naruto nodded and slipped into the waters. Anko couldn't help but bit her lip lightly seeing Naruto's form. He had drastically changed from the first time. Now he was all but a god among men. The 14-year-old boy was well sculpted and flawless. A bonus of the Kikbi, he didn't scar. In all truth, that disappointed Anko slightly. All scars would mean Naruto had gotten hurt, they were so damn sexy. Anko-sensei, Naruto said with a very red face. What is it, Naruto? Anko asked. I was wondering, there are Chunin exams coming up, Naruto said. Can't, Anko said. Naruto nodded, he knew that he couldn't enter them. They required a team. I understand, Naruto said. You can't because I'm not training you to be a Chunin, Anko said. And you've lost me, Naruto said with complete confusion. Okage-sama told me to train you to be the best, so when I'm done you will be at least a Takubetsu Chunin rank, Anko said. You want me to skip Chunin? Naruto asked. Basically, but if you really want to take the exams then I'll get you in them, Anko said. I would like to, it would be a good test for me, Naruto said. Then I will inform Hokage-sama, Anko said as she stood. She had been in the water long enough. Anko grabbed her towel this time. She wouldn't be flashing Naruto again. Naruto blushed heavily but did nothing. He had been beating on her, losing her towel. And in that very moment, Anko slipped as she got out of the water. The only thought in her head was how did she slip? She never slipped. Anko caught herself without incident, or so she thought. That was until she looked over her shoulder. There stood Naruto with the reddest face ever. Anko lowered her head in defeat. Standing, she quickly left to get dressed. Naruto's brain had shorted out. When Anko fell, her towel had slipped up and he had gotten a perfect look at Anko's most intimate spot. He didn't know what to say. But he was happy to know that her hair was natural. I'm such a pervert, Naruto thought as he got out of the waters and moved to get dressed. The next day, Naruto and Anko stood together in a field. Anko smiled as she looked down at Naruto. It was time to start preparing him for his Chunin exam. He wanted to take them, so he had to be ready because unlike others he would have to do it alone. Okay, Naruto, where Anko started as she placed a hand on Naruto's shoulder. As she spoke, she noticed a puff of smoke went off. The two quickly dropped into their defensive stances, only to see they now stood before the last thing either wanted to be. Simply the largest snake either of them had ever seen. Anko instantly knew who it was. Manda, Anko said in pure fear. Naruto saw his sensei was fearful of the great snake before them. For good reason too, it was simply gigantic. You little girl, you wanted to see me, the voice of Manda boomed out. Why yes, I wanted to get my student the snake contract, Anko said, steeling herself. Never, this boy smells of foxes, Manda spoke. I do not care what he is. Manda roared. For your insolence, you will die. He added as the great snake lashed out. Anko's eyes shot open as she watched the great snake all but fly at her. His massive fangs were ready to skewer her. For the first time, she could remember, Anko froze. Not from the pain of her curse seal but in fear. Her legs wouldn't move. This is it, Anko thought. Her mind started to race as she thought. But every thought simply came back to the same end. Naruto. He was all she could think of. Hayes Rick. Lurep, SHM Tatsu. Naruto's voice screamed out as he attacked the great snake. Manda roared in pain as the blonde strike nailed his right eye. The great snake rolled back in pain. The blonde had stolen his eye from him. You bastard. Manda roared as he looked for Naruto. Hayes Rick. Shigeki K's no Yaiba. Naruto roared as an entire wind chakra-coated hand shot at the great snake's left eye. Another massive roar of pain erupted from Manda as his other eye was stolen from him. Naruto hadn't stopped yet, his hand stung from the Yaiba, but he would protect his sensei. Haju Kage Bushin no Jutsu, Naruto shouted as he brought as many clones as he could into creation. What are you planning, boy? Manda roared as he slammed around trying to hit Naruto. He was mad and Naruto knew this. The great snake was not focused nor clear-minded. And that would be his downfall. All together now. Naruto shouted. Hayes Rick. Kikayoku Jutsu Gufchike 6, all the clones called out together. Anko had finally snapped out of her daze just in time to see Manda being sliced to pieces, but the most powerful ability that the K's Rick had. An ability Naruto shouldn't know yet. Naruto wasn't strong enough in the K's Rick to use such a powerful attack. That was when Anko noticed the massive amount of clones. Naruto had overcome his lack of skill and experience with pure numbers. Manda was dead. Couldn't get much deader, he was sliced and diced, chopped and minced, and all around the place. Literally, he was in pieces. Naruto, you killed Manda, Anko said in shock. Naruto panted as he looked at his sensei. Anko rushed to Naruto seeing the damage to his hands. Both hands were coated in blood and simply laid at Naruto's sides. Yeah, I guess I did. I'd do it again if it protected you, Naruto said weakly. Anko then saw why Naruto was getting paler. Upon Manda's death, his fangs were sliced up as well. One of the shards had nailed Naruto right in the stomach. Naruto. Anko caught him as he fell backward. Anko noticed the puff of smoke went off again. She looked to see they were back in the field they had been in. That meant one thing for sure. Manda was dead. After all, he had summoned them to him. Anko scooped Naruto up into her arms and ran toward the hospital. She needed to get Naruto checked over. She wouldn't let him die for her. Especially since he hadn't kept his promise, he still had to win her heart and marry her. Naruto slowly felt his surroundings coming to him. The soft beep of the equipment and the light chirping of birds outside let him know he was in a hospital. He hated hospitals. Before he moved, he noticed something else. Someone or something had a hold of his right hand. Whatever was gripping him wasn't tight, but it was firm. After a second, Naruto cracked an eye open to see his sensei sitting beside his bed holding his hand. She looked more radiant than ever at this moment. Naruto slowly found his voice. "Anko-sensei?" Naruto asked softly. He hadn't noticed it at first, but he could see that Anko had clearly been crying about something. "Naruto, you're okay," Anko said quickly. Now Naruto was worried. Anko was acting like something bad had happened. Sure, he had been impaled by something, but was it that bad? "Yeah, I'm okay. What happened?" Naruto asked. "I'm sorry, Naruto, I froze. Manda always terrified me so. But you saved us both and almost paid the price," Anko said. "What do you mean? Did I come that close?" Naruto asked. "You almost died thanks to the venom in Manda's fang that impaled your stomach," Anko answered. "Oh, I'm sorry I worried you, sensei," Naruto said as he sat up. Anko quickly caught him as he doubled over. "You need to rest some more," Anko said. "I feel really weak." "How long have I been out?" Naruto asked. 3 days, Anko replied. "There's something else too," Anko added. "What is it?" Naruto asked. "Manda's venom did something to your healing that the fox gave you," Anko said. "What do you mean?" Naruto asked. "She means that my healing isn't perfect anymore," the great fox answered. Naruto grabbed his forehead as the fox's voice boomed through his head. It wasn't normally this loud. "I'm really lost now," Naruto replied to the fox. "The healing I give you will still save your life, but that snake's venom slows it and makes it so your skin and muscle will scar," the fox spoke. "So I'll have scars?" Naruto asked. "And my healing is slower, that's the main point," the fox spoke. "Naruto?" Anko said, seeing Naruto had gone quiet. "Sorry, sensei, the fox was giving me the rundown. So it looks like I'll be healing slower and I'll be scaring now too," Naruto said. Anko was about to speak when a puff of smoke went off, alerting the two. The two looked to see a small black cobra sitting on the end table. Anko froze knowing who it was. "Mikro," Anko spoke. "Anko-san, y'all wants to see you and the boy," Mikro spoke. "Why, y'all is awake?" Anko said with a shocked face. "He was woken by the death of his son," Mikro explained. "This is bad, isn't it?" Naruto asked. "No, actually just surprising. Y'all is the true boss summoned for the snakes. But he went into a deep hibernation sort of thing several years ago, leaving Manda in charge," Anko explained. "So this y'all is the big boss?" Naruto asked. "He would be the equivalent to the Toad summons legendary Toad sages," Mirko answered. "Why does he want to see us?" Anko asked. "Don't know, just summon me once the boy is healed enough to visit," Mirko said before she vanished. "I guess I should focus on resting," Naruto said. "Yeah, I never met y'all. Only heard that he's powerful and massive," Anko said. "How big is he?" Naruto asked. "He's around twice the size of Manda," Anko said, causing Naruto's jaw to drop. He really didn't want to piss off a snake that big. Naruto laid back and looked at his hands. He was surprised to see they had minimal damage. Only a few scars. This was going to be interesting to get used to. "Sensei, I should be good tomorrow," Naruto said. "We'll see," Anko replied. Naruto smiled and then quickly fell asleep. That afternoon, Anko stood before the Hokage alongside all the other Jonin. She knew what this was for and it was going to be fun talking her way into it. "So you should know why we are here," Hiruzen said. The Jonin all nodded. With a gesture, Hiruzen let the Jonin have the floor. "Asuma Saratobi, Jonin sensei of Team 10, consists of Nara Shikamaru, Akimichi Choji, and Ino Yamanaka, and I hereby place my Genin team in the Chunin exams," Asuma said, with all the professionalism he could muster. "Iki Kurenai, Jonin sensei of Team 8, consists of Haika Hinata, Inyazuka Kiba, and Abiram Shino, hereby place my team in the Chunin exams," Kurenai said. "Kakashi?" Hiruzen asked. "My team is back together, but they are shaky at best." Sakura agreed to rejoin, but is very cautious around Sasuke for good reason and thus Sai is very protective of her, Kakashi explained. "So you are going to keep them out this time then?" Hiruzen asked. "I'll put them forward and let them decide," Kakashi replied. "Very well," Hiruzen said. "Mitarashi Anko, Jonin sensei of Uzumaki Naruto, and I would like to place him in the exams as well," Anko said, shocking most of the room. It was allowed for a solo genin to take the exams, but they rarely if ever made it through. The only exceptions were Itachi and Kakashi. It will be very hard on him, Anko, he will be targeted since he's alone, Hiruzen said. I am aware, but he wishes to take them as a test. I would honestly put his true rank somewhere around a Takebetsu Junin, Anko said. You think he's improved that much? Kakashi asked. He has complete mastery of the Kage Bushin, his skill with the K's Rick increase each day, and he's damn near a master with Dakijutsu and Fuinjutsu. So yeah, I think he's improved that much, Anko said, placing a hand on her hip. Very well, Genin Uzumaki will be allowed to enter by himself, Hiruzen said. Mido Gai Junin Sensei of Team 3 consists of Haikaniji, Tenten, and Rock Lee, and I'd place my team forward for the Chunin exams, Gai said with his trademark smile. Very well, then each of you may get the papers from my assistant, then give them to your Genin, dismissed. Anko, please stay, Hiruzen said. The Junin all left, leaving Anko alone with the Hokage. Anko figured Hiruzen wanted to know about Naruto's health. Hiruzen took a slow breath before giving Anko a soft smile. It's come to my attention that you've been getting a little closer to Naruto, Hiruzen said, causing a blush to appear on Anko's face. I won't lie, I do in fact care very much for Naruto. More than I should, Anko said. I'm only going to say this once. Relationships between Junin and Genin are forbidden, Anko felt a pain rise in her heart. She didn't like that she couldn't be with Naruto. However, should Naruto become a Chunin, well, then there are no rules against a Junin and a Chunin being together, Hiruzen added, getting Anko to realize what he meant. Okage-sama, if I may ask, why is it forbidden for Junin and Genin? Anko asked. Well, it's not truly forbidden, just frowned upon depending on the age. Well, most would be hard-pressed to think that a 12-year-old and a 28-year-old could really be in love, Hiruzen explained. I'm only 22, Anko said with a smirk. Hiruzen couldn't hide his smile. And Naruto is 13, but your case is different, Hiruzen said. It's because he's a monster and I'm the snake whore, right? Anko asked. Hiruzen nodded with disdain, he hated those nicknames. I just wanted to let you know that if you peruse this relationship you both will get more hateful looks, Hiruzen said. I could care less. So what if I have the hots for my Genin that doesn't? Anko's words stopped dead. Did she really just say that? Hiruzen smiled and lit his pipe. Didn't think it would take you this long to notice that, Hiruzen said to the still silent Anko. Her mind was rushing. As odd as it was to say it, but it was true. She liked Naruto, that boy had wormed his way into her heart. What do I do? Anko asked, looking to the Hokage. I would say talk to him, you know as well as anyone a fleeting life can be. You could lose him tomorrow or he could lose you, Hiruzen said. Anko nodded and with a bow, she left to find her Naruto. Reaching the hospital she found herself pissed off. Naruto was gone. He had promised to rest and what did he do? He snuck out of the hospital. Rolling her eye, Anko knew even though he had snuck out he would still be resting. So he would either be home in bed and probably reading a Fuinjutsu scroll or he'd be out in some field enjoying the day. It was beautiful out after all. She reached his place first and sure enough there he was. But he wasn't in bed. He was on the roof talking with Rock Lee. Naruto, Anko all but growled. Naruto turned and smiled brightly at his sensei. Anko stopped, seeing that smile wash away all her rage instantly. Hey sensei, I swear I wasn't training, I was resting, then I started talking to Lee when he came by, Naruto said in a hurried voice. Yes, I will vouch for Naruto-san, he most assuredly was not training, Lee said with his usual overconfidence. Anko sighed, then gave a nod. I believe you. But you should be inside resting, Anko said with just the right tone. I'm gonna go, Lee said as he all but vanished in a blur of green. Naruto looked at his sensei with a worried look. Anko said nothing and simply rose an eyebrow, and with that simple act, Naruto was in his apartment moments later. 3 days later, Naruto and Anko appeared in a plume of smoke. They were once again in the land of the snake summons. But this time was different. Instead of being in front of Manda alone, they were surrounded by hundreds, maybe thousands of snakes. Naruto's jaw was slack as he looked around. He couldn't believe that there were so many snakes. Before either Anko or Naruto could talk they saw him. Y'all. Anko, just like Naruto, stared in pure disbelief. Y'all was simply gigantic. But unlike Manda, he looked to be a completely normal cobra. He was all deep crimson with black markings all over him. Y'all's intense yellow eyes found the two and he moved forward, bringing himself to them. So you are the boy that killed my child, Y'all's voice was thunderous. Naruto gulped and nodded. Why yes I did, Naruto said. To say Naruto was scared would be a massive understatement. Even with the power of the Kikbi inside him. But that brat needed to die, Y'all laughed. Both Naruto and Anko let a sigh of relief out as they saw the great snake laughing. Salome, come forward, Y'all spoke. Anko's attention snapped to a large red and white snake that slithered forward. Salome, you're alive. Anko shouted happily. It has been a long time, Lilko, Salome replied. Anko hugged the snake. She hadn't been this happy in a long time. Sensei? Naruto asked. Oh right. Salome, here is my personal snake summon. I haven't been able to properly summon a snake in years thanks to Orochimaru. I can only summon small snakes, Anko said. Not anymore, Yal spoke. As his voice thundered, a pure white snake came forth and opened its maw. From within, a scroll came out. Naruto tilted his head as the scroll rolled open. It was there he saw a list of names, a very small list of 5 names total. 3 he couldn't even read, like they were written in a different language. But 2 of them he could: Orochimaru and Mitarashi Anko, but Anko's name was partially crossed off. Y'all has decided to give you your full summon back, as well as allowing your student to sign, the white snake spoke. As he did, Anko's name was repaired. The snake motioned for Naruto to move forward. Naruto obeyed and moved to the scroll. Write your name and blood and place all 5 fingerprints below, the snake explained. Naruto obeyed and signed the contract. One final thing, Y'all spoke. Once Naruto had taken a step back, Y'all spit poison on the scroll. Anko's face went pale. She couldn't believe what she was seeing. Orochimaru's name was dissolving. The snakes were abandoning him. He is no longer fit to summon us, Y'all spoke. Naruto looked to his sensei and all but burst out in laughter. She was using Salome as a chair and he seemed to be fine with it. Now boy, wait here while a snake picks you, the white snake spoke. Picks me? Naruto asked. Each snake summon gets their own personal to summon. Like Manda for Orochimaru and Salome for me, Anko said as Salome hissed at her, tickling her neck. Knock it off, Salome simply laughed. Naruto stood for a moment waiting. Then he felt it. Something was slithering up his leg. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw a pitch-black king cobra looking at him. Unlike all the other snakes, this cobra didn't have yellow eyes. No, this cobra's eyes were blood red. I am Norla, Norla spoke softly. Impressive, my youngest daughter, Y'all spoke. Anko felt her jaw slack again. Seriously, what was with Naruto's luck? To have a direct child of Y'all as a personal summon. It's a pleasure, Norla, so what can you do? Naruto asked. As a direct child of Y'all, I can do much. I can grow to a large size for combat. In this form, I am at my most venomous, perfect for assassination. I can also be used for travel and tracking, Norla explained. Wow, that's badass, Naruto said with a smile. Now then, for a time Norla and Salome will be the only snakes you will be able to summon, Y'all said, getting a confused look from both of the humans. Y'all-sama, why do you say that? Anko asked. The clan is split in 2. Nagini has command of part of my clan. Until she is gone, the snake are in civil war, Y'all explained. It is time you leave, the white snake spoke. And with that, the 2 vanished from the realm of the snakes. Naruto looked at his sensei with a huge smile. Anko couldn't help but smile as well. Hell, she had her Salome back. The 2 smiling shinobi quickly degraded into a laughing fest. Both were overjoyed with the summons. I can't believe that I'm a snake summoner now, just like sensei, Naruto all but shouted. I'm a full summoner again. I can't wait to use Salome in combat again, Anko said. Right, I forgot, Naruto, you're in the Chunin exams, Anko said, handing Naruto a form. Naruto shouted, enjoy this time. He had a summon and now he was on his way to becoming a Chunin. Alright, let's train some, sensei. Naruto shouted happily. Thought you'd never ask, Anko said as she gave a grin. Later that day, Naruto laid on the ground, worn out and exhausted. But the smile on his face wouldn't fade. This is what a sensei is supposed to be like, Naruto thought as he sat up and saw Anko pulling a long box out of a storage scroll. I've got a gift for you, Anko said. Naruto smiled again as he managed to stand and move toward his sensei. Anko handed him the long box. Naruto opened and froze. These are, Naruto said. Yup, Anko replied. But how, I would have thought, Naruto asked in confusion. Apparently they were made by chakra, but once made they were unbound and are the same as any other weapon, just much stronger, Anko explained. Naruto placed the box on the ground and pulled out the objects. It was a pair of bone swords. The very ones Kamimuro had nearly killed him with. Naruto smiled and spun the blades a few times. He noticed that they were very light and slightly longer than the usual katana. Anko smiled, she was glad that he liked the swords. But now she had a problem. She had no skill with katanas or dual wielding. But Naruto had shown a desire for both, hence the swords, so how she had to find a tutor to help him where she couldn't. I can't wait to learn how to use them. I wonder if Nico-chan would be willing to help me learn, Naruto said, knowing his sensei didn't use a sword, much less 2, while Nico-chan was a master swordswoman. I know, Nico-chan, I'll ask her for you, Anko said. But for now go rest, I've got a few things to do, she added. Naruto nodded and grabbed the sheaths for his new swords, then took off for home. Once he was gone, Anko turned and vanished. So why are you watching, Naruto? Anko asked, getting an eep from the bushes. With a light push, a girl rolled out of the bushes. Anko knew who it was right away. It was Hinata Hikta. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to spy, Hinata said shyly. No, I'm pretty sure you did, Anko said with a smirk. I get it, you have a thing for Naruto, Anko added. Seeing the blush on the girl's face told her that she was right. Anko needed to squash this bug now. If Naruto wasn't as stalwart on her as he was she would let it go, but he was so. I'm sorry to tell you but you can't have him, Anko said making the girl's face redden even more. And no I don't like Naruto-kun like that, Hinata said making Anko tilt her head. You don't? Anko asked. No I just admire him he's been a source of inspiration for me for a long time. How he never gives in and keeps fighting. He showed me that you should never give up, Hinata explained. But admire, but no touching he's mine after all, Anko said before she vanished. She wasn't sure why she said that, but it was true. She wanted Naruto. The day of the exam, Naruto was enjoying a walk through the village. He was currently thinking back to when he first became Anko's genin and how much had changed. How he went from the orange jumpsuit wearing dork to what he was now. A serious shinobi and soon to be chunin at least he hoped. Naruto cracked his neck and adjusted his new shirt. He was still getting used to his new attire. He had gotten a new outfit just for the exams. He now wore a pair of dark orange pants that had black lines running down the side. A short-sleeved mesh shirt with a sleeveless black shirt and a long dark orange trench coat. He had gotten a pair of black fingerless gloves with a Konoha metal plate on the backs of them. For weapons, he had his bone katanas strapped to his back and 3 kunai and shuriken holsters on each hip. It was a pleasant surprise that Nico-chan had found that Naruto was ambidextrous, and another surprise was how well he took to dual wielding and using both hands to properly throw kunai and shuriken. Naruto stopped when he heard a shout. He knew that voice. Naruto flashed through some hand signs and then spoke. Map. And Kakikai no Urukumasu, Naruto vanished into the shadow realm. He quickly found what he was looking for. His little buddy Konohamaru was about to have the holy hell beat out of him. Naruto came out of the shadow realm right behind the target. He was about to attack when he saw who it was. Picking on someone half your size. Have you no pride Kankurm? Naruto asked. Kankurm and Temari both spun in shock seeing Naruto suddenly behind them. Naruto. Kankurm smiled dropping Konohamaru to the ground. Where's Gaara? Naruto asked. Right here, Gaara said as he appeared in a swirl of sand. How have you guys been? Naruto asked. Getting better good to have my brother, Temari said. Good to hear, Naruto said as the four started to walk away leaving a confused Konohamaru and Core behind. So you guys are here for the chunin exams? Naruto asked. We are, Gaara replied. Sweet I'm in them too, but I'm solo, Naruto said. Well, this will be fun for you eh? Kankurm said with a smile. Naruto simply laughed as the four made their way to the academy. Naruto stood in the room that would be used for the first part of the chunin exams. He stood next to Temari and Kankurm with Gaara on the other side of Temari. The four had been quietly talking the whole time. Right up until Naruto heard a shout. Yahoo! Looks like we are all here, Naruto looked to see Kiba, Hinata and Shino walking up to Team 7 and Team 10. He watched them for a moment then moved towards the group. I can tell you anything with these cards. So give me your best shot, a gray-haired young man said. Naruto stopped as he heard Sasuke speak. Rock Lee and Uzumaki Naruto of Konohagakure, Sasuke said. Another one he had red hair, dark circles under his eyes and the kanji for love over his left eye, Shino spoke. The group looked at Shino who remained silent. Naruto was slightly confused. When had Shino run into Gaara? If it's who I think it is. This is his card, Kabuto said. Arif Ma, he's the third child of the Kazukiage, your age, his stats are all unknown, and it seems he's been on 0D ranked mission, 20C ranked, 5B ranked, and even an A ranked mission. And it seems he's never been injured not even a scuff, the gray-haired man explained. Not a surprise. Gaara's a badass and the ultimate defense helps Naruto thought. Rock Lee, he's a year older than you. He's the adopted son of Mito Guy. His stats in ninjutsu and jinjutsu are literally non-existent and his taijutsu is off the scales. And it looks like he's been on 42D ranked missions and 17C ranked missions. Didn't know that Kame-san had adopted Lee, Naruto thought. Finally Uzumaki Naruto, the gray-haired man said building a little suspense. He's your age, former member of Team 7, but has gotten a personal sensei in Mitarashi Anko. His jinjutsu is basically nil, while his taijutsu and ninjutsu are labeled as high chunin level. He's labeled as a master first rank in the K's Rick. He's been on 23D ranked missions, 3C ranked missions, 1 being an assassination, and holy cow 1A rank turned S rank. He's also in Kiri's bingo book as a flea on-site target with a bounty over 20 KRIO, the gray-haired man said shocking everyone within earshot. Nice to hear I'm such a badass, Naruto smiled from behind the group. Everyone turned to see Naruto smiling at them. He could see many things. Admiration from Hinata, jealousy from Sasuke and Kiba, fear from Ino and Sakura, and surprise from Shikamaru, Choji, and Sai. What the hell kind of mission was you on that was made into an S rank? Kiba asked. Can't tell you all S ranked missions are kept secret, Naruto said as he looked over the room. He could feel someone coming. With a flash of movement, Naruto was gone. Moments later 3 shinobi jumped out of the crowd aiming to attack the Konoha genin. As they closed in they each felt their forward movement get stopped dead. Now there's no fighting unless otherwise stated, Naruto said from behind all three of them. The three shinobi looked in shock. The girl saw a bone sword ready to slit her throat for a quick but messy death. The heavily bandaged man saw two fingers with wind chakra spinning on them pointed at his temple. The last boy had stopped dead just from Naruto's glare, the kunai at his throat was hardly needed. How did you? The bandaged man asked. Shadow clones, and Naruto replied. Too bad you don't know which one of us is the real one, the second Naruto replied. So instead of pushing it, why don't you just go back to your seats, the final Naruto spoke. The Odonin obeyed and left to their seats just as the door flew open and several people walked in. That's enough chit-chat all of you, a voice spoke as the door flew open and the man walked in. The crowd quickly silenced and looked at the man. Now let's get straight to business. Anyone here taking the exam solo? The man said. Naruto and another man both walked up to him. Names. Uzumaki Naruto, Naruto spoke plainly. Mitsurugi Taki, Taki said with a grumble. Naruto glanced at the man. He was a few years older than him. Probably 18 or 19. He had long black hair that was kept in a high foxtail styled ponytail and a light beard. He wore an armored hakama, sandals, tabi socks, no shirt or chest armor, and an armored gauntlet and sleeve on his right arm. All in all, he looked more like a samurai than a shinobi. His only telltale sign that he was a shinobi was his Kumagakure hit I-8 that was hanging on his sash. If you two will please follow H. Echo, the man said. The two genin looked to see a coughing man in the doorway. With a nod, both followed him. The three had walked in complete silence for a few minutes before Hay pointed towards a door. The two gave a nod and moved towards the room. Naruto stepped into the room and straight into a cloud of black smoke. He reeled back trying to get out of the smoke. He hadn't seen this coming, not even a little. That was when he felt it. His blood felt like it was on fire. Dropping to his knees he mentally screamed for Kikbi's help. This is going to sound odd, but breathe deep, the Kikbi's voice replied. Naruto didn't have time to argue and did as the great fox asked and took the biggest breath he could, sucking in nothing but the black smoke. No surprise, it got worse. He felt like his bones were being turned to ash while his muscles and nerves were charbroiled. Slamming his fist down, Naruto fought with all his might to stay conscious. He could feel Kikbi doing something with his body. A churning rumbled up from Naruto's stomach and forced its way out. To Naruto's surprise, it wasn't blood and stomach acid but some weird greening black mucus-like substance. Before he could question the Kikbi, he dropped to the side and passed out. Within his mind, Naruto slowly sat up to see the form of the Kikbi he was used to seeing. The young beautiful woman had a large smile plastered on her face. She was clearly proud of something. So seriously, what the hell was that? Naruto asked. That stuff was a knockout gas mixed with a weak poison and a hallucinogen, the great fox replied. So why did you have me inhale? Naruto asked. Because I used the poison to make antibodies and I was able to expel Manda's venom, the woman laughed. So I'm good? Naruto asked. Oh no, you're much better than good, the fox laughed again. Okay, explanation, Naruto said. The Kikbi simply smiled once more before she started her explanation. I've been able to advance your already ridicule's healing factor even further, the fox said plainly. Since the land of waves, your seal has had the smallest crack in it. So I started pumping a minuscule amount of my chakra into your system at all times. I sent the chakra to your muscles, nerves, veins, bones, skin, hair, and just about everywhere else so I can make you stronger, faster, smarter, and all around better. Naruto simply stared in disbelief as the fox explained. Now when Manda poisoned you, I had to revert all the healing to fight his venom. But once the new and rather weak poison entered your system, I was able to take it and make it fight the venom. You know, you could just say you're venom free and your healing is better, Naruto replied. That's what I said, the fox woman said. Naruto stood for a moment, then finally had had enough. Okay, so I gotta know, why do you take the form of a woman? Naruto asked. My first two hosts were women. I guess you could say after spending 50 plus years sealed into women, I started preferring the gender. That being said, if I stay in this form any longer, I'll probably start acting like one more than my usual fox self. Might be fun, the woman said with a grin. Okay then, so what now? Naruto asked. That's easy, wake up, the fox said. Waking world, Naruto snapped up and drew a bone sword, instantly ready for just about anything. He stopped when he noticed he was alone. The room was empty. Naruto looked around, keeping his guard up as he looked from place to place. His constant guard ended up saving his life, and he saw an attack coming at the last second. Die. A voice growled. Naruto narrowly dropped back, dodging a wild kunai throw and 3 shurikens. Acting quick, Naruto coated his sword with wind chakra and lashed out at the attacking foe. Blades clashed and Naruto felt himself getting thrown back. Rolling to his feet, he saw Taki standing a few yards away from him. His eyes were completely bloodshot and blood trickled out of them and his ears and mouth. What the hell is wrong with you? Naruto asked as he watched the clearly mindless man sway a little just before he took off towards the blonde. Sword art. Razor's edge. Taki roared as he lashed out with his sword. Naruto was easily able to dodge the initial strike but hadn't seen the hidden attack. From within the shadow of the sword, a second blade attacked, slicing open Naruto's stomach and throwing him into the wall. Fuck, Naruto grunted as he slumped down from the wall. He placed a hand over his stomach to try and stop the bleeding, while his now advanced healing started to kick in. Taki shouted as he swung his sword over and over, with his sword art jutsu continued to strike. Naruto did his best to dodge, but Taki's attacks were simply too fast for him. His first attempt in blocking had knocked his sword from his hand. Since then his body suffered for it. Whether they were light or deep cuts, his body was riddled with them. Taki started to laugh as he attacked again. Naruto put his arms up to block the attack but was met with not a cut but a very powerful kick. Naruto felt the wall crack and shatter from the hit. Breaking through the wall, Naruto barely managed to roll to his feet and quickly coated his hand in wind chakra. As Taki approached, Naruto knew he had only one shot in hand to make it count. Haze Rick. Kakaioku Jutsu Gufkshkit. 2 Naruto roared and he charged forward and narrowly dodged a swing. The shadow of the blade still tore into his throat but he didn't stop. His hand slammed into Taki's stomach and the attack went off. A hurricane force wind shattered Taki's entire being. From his chin to his shins his entire body was obliterated. Not a single trace left other than his head and his knees down. Naruto dropped to his knees, feeling his body healing from the damage he had taken. Damn it, that wasn't easy, Naruto said as he did a few hand signs. Pain. Kikaku Enjin no Jutsu 3. With a small puff of flame, Naruto ignited the remains of Taki's shins and kept his head for proof of death. Naruto pulled off the tattered remains of his shirt just as the door opened. What in the name of Kami? Hayate asked. That Taki dude went berserk and attacked me, Naruto said as he looked to see all of his wounds had closed but scars remained. Yo fox, why do I have scars? Naruto asked. A woman said she likes scars, so I thought I'd let you keep them, the fox's voice replied. Well, that super succeeded your exam, Hayate said. What was my exam? Naruto asked. It was a test to see if you could defuse a complex situation wherein you have no idea where you are or what's going on. It seems Taki snapped and tried to end you, Hayate said with a few coughs. So what now? Naruto asked. You move on to your second exam. Meet your sensei at the Forest of Death and she'll give you your test, Hayate said. Naruto moved over and grabbed his sword, sheathing it before he looked back to Hayate. With a nod, he vanished in a swirl of orange mist. He needed a change of clothes before he went to see his sensei. Naruto's apartment. Naruto had decided to bust out his newest outfit for the next test. A pair of black pants with black sandals, a black sleeveless shirt and a deep red sleeveless duster coat. He had covered his arms in stark white bandages with seals written all over them. His bone swords had been moved and hidden within his coat along with his kunai and shuriken pouches. For the final piece of flair, Naruto had copied Zabuza and wrapped up the lower half of his face, leaving only his blonde hair and blue eyes visible. After a quick check-in, the mirror Naruto vanished in a swirl of orange mist. It was time to start his second exam. At the Forest of Death, Anko sat drifting in and out of sleep. She still had 15 minutes before she had to go and see the passing genin and bring them to her favorite playground. She was startled when a swirl of orange mist went off in front of her and her genin appeared looking drop-dead sexy in a new outfit. Well, what's this now? Anko asked. I was told to come to you for my next exam, Naruto said. Anko blinked in surprise, she wasn't expecting him that quick. Well, I must say I'm surprised. I figured you'd be a little longer, Anko said. Oh come on sensei, you give me too little credit, Naruto laughed. Taki, either way you can go hang out in the forest for the next 5 days. Your test is to eliminate the teams that enter. They will have either a heaven or an earth scroll, Anko explained. So defeat them and take their scrolls. Naruto asked. Yup, or simply destroy their scrolls, Anko said. Fun, catch you later, Naruto said as he jumped towards the forest. Be at the tower in 5 days. Anko shouted as she turned and decided to head to the exam hall. Alright, brats, the always sexy but not single Anko has arrived. Anko's voice echoed out through the room. You're early, Ibiki said from behind her banner. Oh well, it happens, what the hell. Anko said with a disdainful look. Quite a crop this year, Ibiki replied. Sure, but 54 teams. How many did you start with? Anko asked. Close to 100 teams, Ibiki replied. Well, I can guarantee that number will be cut down to low double, maybe even single digits by the time the second test is done, Anko said, causing much of the room to become worried. You're positive of this? Ibiki asked. Yeah, because this year the test has a new variable, Anko said with a big grin. Ibiki nodded, knowing what she meant. Of course that will cut a lot of them out, Ibiki said with a nod. Now the room was worried. This proctor who scared just about everyone knew there was something that would take them out. Okay kiddies, time to follow me to your next test, Anko said as she snapped her fingers and her banner vanished. "Oh, that's still cool," Anko said as she led the room out. At the Forest of Death, Naruto flipped through the Forest of Death with a big smile on his face, not that it could be seen thanks to the bandages on his face. His movement stopped dead when he heard a loud pop. He turned and looked up to see a flare light up the sky. "That's gotta be sensei," Naruto said as he shunshined to his sensei. Anko stood waiting with everyone staring at her. She had just sent up a flare-up for apparently no reason. The reason was explained when a figure appeared. It was a young-looking man with long red hair and violet eyes. He wore a sleeveless deep red duster, black pants, and black sandals. His face and arms were covered in stark white bandages, but the bandages on his arms were coated with seals. "Ah, Himura-san, thanks for answering," Anko said, quickly seeing what Naruto was planning. "I was in the area that I was," Kenshin replied. "Ladies and gents, this is Himura Kenshin. And he's the Forest of Death's eliminator," Anko said. "What do you mean by eliminator?" Sakura's telltale voice spoke out. "Himura-san's job in the forest is to find you, defeat you, and take your scroll," Anko said. "But he won't start until a half hour after your exam starts," Anko said. "So not only do we have to last 5 days, fight other teams in the search for a second scroll, but we'll also have someone hunting us for our scroll with the sole purpose of stopping us from passing." Shikamaru asked. "That is correct. I will take your scroll if I get the chance that I will," Kenshin replied, smiling from under his bandages. Everyone knew he was smiling but couldn't see it, and that oddly made it more terrifying. "Now then, you have all the rules, report to your gate," Anko said. Within moments all the teams were gone. "Now then, Himura-san, for you to pass you have to do something truly difficult," Anko said as she drew out his fake name. "Let me guess. I have to eliminate half of them?" Naruto asked. "Basically, and if you show up at the tower hurt you're out," Anko said. "Oh, so this is like easy mode shit," Naruto said as he broke character. "Yup," Anko replied as a buzzer went off and the contestant took off into the forest. Naruto cracked his neck ready to go. "Oh no, you have a half hour still," Anko said. "What am I going to do for a half hour?" Naruto asked. "This," Anko said as she grabbed Naruto's collar. Naruto froze when Anko grabbed his bandages and almost ripped them off as she pulled them down. Then Naruto was cut off when Anko's lips smashed into his. Naruto's eyes shot wide as he got his first real kiss. It took Naruto a moment to regain his mind, but when he did he ever? His arms wrapped around his sensei's waist, pulling her deeper into their kiss. Anko had only meant for it to be a quick kiss, but the moment her lips touched his she noticed something. His lips tasted like heaven and damn it all she would have more. Her hand released his collar and moved around his neck. Their kiss deepened even more as their bodies now pressed together. Naruto's arms tightened ever so slightly, while Anko's arms agreed and did the same. Naruto's mind spun at this point. Not only had his most desired woman kissed him, but she wouldn't stop kissing him. But as quick as it happened it ended. The two separated with a gasp. Neither had noticed how low they had gotten on the air. Both panted heavily and felt lightheadedness flood them. Naruto stumbled backward for a moment. "Wow," Anko said as she felt a heavy flush building in her face. Naruto could only nod in response. After another few moments, Naruto finally found his voice. "So what does this make us?" Naruto asked. Anko simply smiled and took a step toward him. With a simple kiss on his cheek and turned and walked away. "We'll talk after the exam," Anko said. "Now go kick some major ass, and I just might give you another one," Anko added. "On it," Naruto said as he quite literally vanished. Within the forest, Naruto took a few moments to fix his mask. Once he was all fixed up he rolled through a few hand signs and activated a seal on his right thumb. With a puff of smoke, a pitch-black snake appeared. "Naruto, what is it you need?" Nola asked. "It's exam time and I'd like your help. What kind of poisons do you have?" Naruto asked. "I have 4 poisons I can use by choice. The first is a regular king cobra's venom, the second is a very powerful hallucinogenic venom, the third is a strong paralytic venom, but the last one is by far the strongest, but I don't have very much of it. It is a dissolving venom. Should I bite someone with it they die no questions asked," Nola replied. "Really? No way to heal it?" Naruto asked. "Correct, it is called the venom of Yal and only father and his direct brood have it. And I mean direct, even children of mine won't have it," Nola answered. "Okay, so we'll use that as a last resort only if Orochimaru or this Nagini show up," Naruto said. "Agreed, I'd suggest the paralytic for this exam of yours, and if Nagini shows up you have to summon father," Nola suggested and told Naruto. "Sounds good," Naruto replied. Naruto paused, then offered his arm to the snake. "You wish to do that?" Nola asked. "Yes, that way you'll be a good surprise," Naruto replied. "Then so be it," Nola replied before she slid up his arm. Naruto took a slow breath as he watched Nola slide under the bandages. He grunted when he felt her process start. "Stings more than it hurts," Naruto said to himself as he pulled off the bandages to see her work. Once removed he saw she had in fact finished her work. There on his arm was a tattoo of Nola. She looked ready to strike, her fangs bared, and she was coiled and ready. He ran a few fingers over the tattoo only for it to shift. "I'd prefer if you didn't pet me when I was infused in your arm," Nola's voice echoed through his mind. "Looks like you got two voices in your head now, kid," the Kikbi's voice spoke out. "Yeah, that's fun," Naruto said. "What is fun?" Nola asked. "Ah, so you can communicate with me but not the fox," Naruto said. "Correct, I am infused into your arm, not its," Nola replied. "Well, time to go." "I've got a lot of work ahead of me," Naruto said with a smirk. "So how are you going to do this?" Nola asked. "Shadow clones," Naruto said as he did just that, and well over 50 shadow clones came into existence. "Okay, groups of 2 find teams and defeat them, or simply take their scroll and report back," Naruto said as he jumped away. The clones all followed suit and vanished. A few hours later, Naruto sat high in a tree after having just defeated a team. Oddly, there were only 2 members he could find. His head snapped up when he felt the last clone's memories come to him. A grin slid over his bandage-covered face. 21, Naruto grinned as he looked at the scroll in his hand. "Please stop," a voice echoed, making Naruto look. His interest was now piqued. He didn't have to travel too far to find the problem. "What's this now?" Naruto asked as he watched from a tree. A young brown-haired girl crawled backward as a man closed in on her. "Please, you won, you have my scroll, you killed my team, please, I don't want to die," the young girl said in fear. "Oh my dear, death is not what's going to happen to you," the man said with a big grin. "No," the girl spoke as she froze in fear. "Oh, you figured it out now, have you?" the man asked. "Please, anything but that," the girl begged. "Oh no, sorry, that's all I want from such a fetching girl like yourself," the man smiled. "And that's enough," Naruto said to himself as he went through a few hand signs. "Bap. Anko no Urukumasu," Naruto spoke as he sunk into the shadow of the tree he was on. Without a word, he moved behind the man and used the jutsu again. "Time to have some fun," the man said as the girl's eyes found Naruto as he rose out of the man's shadow like a demon. The man's eyes shot wide as he felt something tear through his back and out his chest. He glanced down to see a pair of stark white swords coated in his blood sticking out of his chest. "You know I hate scum like you," Naruto said as he pushed the blades further through the man. "How did you?" the man gurgled up. "I am the blackest flame in the holy light and you did not escape my sight," Naruto said as he tore the swords out sideways, effectively cutting the man in two. He was dead before he hit the ground. "How poetic," the voice of the Kikbi echoed out. Naruto just rolled his eyes. He thought it sounded cool. "Are you okay?" Naruto asked, looking at the brunette. Instead of getting an answer, he was tackled. The girl sobbed into his chest and thanked him over and over. Naruto smiled and patted the girl on the head. "Come on, I'll take you to the tower and you can tell the instructors there that you forfeited," Naruto said as he stood and took the scrolls from the man's corpse. "Pain. Kikaku Enjin no Jutsu," and with that, the man's corpse was turned to ashes. "Well, what about his team?" the girl asked. "Defeated as well, I took out a 2-man group just before I came here. They must have been his teammate. They were all from Kumagakure after all," Naruto said. The girl nodded and grabbed onto Naruto again. He could tell she didn't feel safe anywhere near the forest of death anymore. "What's your name?" Naruto asked. "Samara of Iwagakure, you?" Samara asked. "Uzumaki Naruto, Konohagakure," Naruto replied as the two started to sink into the ground. "What's happening?" Samara asked. "Map? Anko no Urukumasu," Naruto replied, and the two were gone. At the tower, Anko sat back simply resting and waiting for contestants to show up. Only one team had shown up so far. Sure, it was kinda nice to see the Fma siblings again, but she was bored now. She was just about to drift off when the door opened. Anko snapped up seeing a young and rather fear-filled girl walk in. "What's going on?" Anko asked. "I lost, my team is gone," the girl said sadly. "And you survived long enough to get here?" Anko asked. "Uzumaki Naruto brought me here after he saved me," the girl answered. "Ah, my student strikes again," Anko said before she paused. "Wait, saved? A man from Kumo killed my team, then he was going to do things to me, but Uzumaki-san saved me," Samara said. "Oh well then, that's new," Anko said as she beckoned the girl to follow her. Back in the forest, Naruto sat high in a tree again. This time, however, he was watching a team. He could see 2 members were fast asleep while the other fought against their desire to sleep. A grin overcame Naruto's face once more. This team would be easy pickings. With all the stealth he had, he slipped down the tree and behind the almost sleeping man. A single chop to the neck put him to sleep. Naruto looked at the other two for a moment, then pulled out some wire. "Let's tie this up a bit, will we?" Naruto asked nobody. "Okay, what's with the puns?" the Kikbi asked. "They're fun," Naruto replied. With a flash of movement, he tied up the 3 and started his search. It only took him a few minutes to find a heaven scroll on them. Pocketing the scroll, he untied them and left still smiling beneath his bandages. The 4th day. 4 days had passed and Naruto stood in front of 3 very tired and very familiar genin. They had fought him with all they had but came up short. A grin slid over Naruto's bandage-covered face. "Sorry to say, Kiba, but you just can't slip by," Naruto said as he stared down at his old friend. "I'm not giving in to you," Kiba shouted. Naruto smiled again before his eyes shot wide. "Run!" Naruto shouted as he shot past teammate. The three spun to see a massive snake bearing down on them. "Fuck," Kiba growled as he, Shino, and Hinata all jumped away. "Haze Rick. Kikayoku Jutsu Gufkike," Naruto shouted as to be planted his hands on the massive snake. Teammate watched in shock as the snake was quite literally obliterated before their eyes. "Cuckoo, it seems I found the thorn in my side," a voice spoke. "Should guys run?" Naruto said as he drew his swords. "Who is that?" Shino asked. "Orochimaru, now run or I will kill you," Naruto said. That statement finally knocked some sense into the three, and they took off. As much as they wanted to say and help, the threat from Naruto did its job. "How noble of you," Orochimaru grinned as he stepped out of the remains of the snake. His attire was different from his usual garb. He wore black pants and a black shirt with a red rope belt. In his hand sat the kusanagi. "I won't back down," Naruto said as he spun his swords. "Oh my, are those Kamimro's swords?" Orochimaru asked. "Yup, sensei took them from his corpse, you know, after I blew a hole through his head," Naruto said with a grin. He was hoping he could piss off Orochimaru and make him mess up. "You know what, I'm not going to kill you. But I am going to hurt you. Really, really bad," Orochimaru grinned. "Not if I kill you first," Naruto said as he took a slow breath. And with a flash, the two clashed bone to blade. Naruto knew that the snake Sannin was toying with him and he hated it. But he had to fight. "Naruto, the only way you can win is by using my chakra," the Kikbi's voice spoke. "I can't handle much of your chakra though," Naruto replied. "I know, but you'll die if you don't use some," Kikbi replied. Naruto mentally nodded and tapped into the smallest amount of chakra he could. Orochimaru saw Naruto's body become clad in the chakra of the nine-tailed fox. A grin graced his face at this. "So you can use its chakra, interesting," Orochimaru smirked. "I will end you," Naruto roared as he charged forward. "Fuchius no Jutsu. Nijini," Orochimaru called out. "Shit," both Biju and Jinchuriki spoke together. The smoke cleared and a snake twice the size of Manda sat before them. She was pitch black with the most demonic red eyes of all time. Like Manda, she had 4 horn-like growths coming out of her head. "Nijini-chan, I give you the brat that killed your favorite son," Orochimaru spoke. "This brat killed my Manda." Nijini roared. "Wait, that means you and Yal-sama are," Naruto started to say before Nijini's tail moved faster than he could see and whipped him back. Naruto couldn't describe the pain he was feeling. Being shot through 2 trees, 3 rocks and across a river, not much could match it. "Should I have to summon help, but I don't know if I can summon him," Naruto said as he spits up blood. "Hit, use my chakra, you should be able to summon Yal," Kikbi commanded. Naruto's eyes brightened. That would work. Yal would probably be pissed at him for doing it, but then again he might get away with it since Nijini was here. "Now time for you to die," Nijini growled. "Probably, but how about we have a reunion first?" Naruto asked, making both snake and summoner pause. "Kuchius no Jutsu. Yal." Naruto screamed at the top of his lungs. And in turn, he was rewarded with the biggest plume of smoke anyone had ever seen. Nijini and Orochimaru were both frozen by the sight. There he was. Yal. In all his glory. Orochimaru felt true fear rise in him for the first time in a long time. Nijini, on the other hand, was both terrified and elated. She feared Yal more than all others, but at the same time seeing her old mate gave her some joy. "Naruto, why did you?" Nijini, Yal started before he saw his old mate. "Sorry Yal-sama, but I had to," Naruto replied. "It is okay," Yal replied as he stared down Nijini. "Yal, I'd be lying if I didn't say that I am a little happy to see you again," Nijini hissed. "I agree. It is good to see you are well, but the wrong you've done to our brood can't go unpunished," Yal hissed back. "What would you know?" Nijini roared. "I know that you, like our foolish son, crave human flesh. You both demand 100 human lives each time you are summoned. That act in itself drove away most of the people that could have become summoners. You tarnished the name of the Snake Clan, and for that, you must die," Yal roared back. With that said, the two snakes lashed out at each other. Just as the snakes had, the summoners jumped at each other. Kusanagi clashed with a bone blade once again. Orochimaru found surprised when Naruto overpowered him, thanks to the Kikbi's chakra still pumping through his system. The two landed on the ground with a roll. Naruto was to his feet first, but it gave no advantage. Orochimaru was at him in seconds. Naruto had to cross his swords to block. Orochimaru's strike still almost reached him. "I'll give you this. You are strong but not strong enough," Orochimaru said as he lashed out and grabbed Naruto's throat. With a gasp, Naruto lost his hold on his swords and grabbed Orochimaru's arm. His vision was starting to fade fast. Naruto shot wide as he felt the Kusanagi stab into his stomach. Now that was just insult to injury. Orochimaru grinned as he started to see Naruto's eyes fade. He was so wrapped up in his victory he didn't see the attack until it was too late. From under the bandages of Naruto's right arm shot a black blur. Pain screamed through the snake Sannin's arm. He shot back and stumbled, seeing a puff of smoke. The smoke cleared and Naruto was wrapped up protectively by a black king cobra. Nola shit, Orochimaru quickly ripped his arm off, knowing he could simply grow a new one later. "Come near Naruto and I'll end you," Nola growled. Orochimaru went to speak but suddenly felt his body drop. His vision faded and his limbs grew heavy. "My venom has started to take effect, I see," Nola spoke. "That's not possible, I'm immune to any venom the snakes could have," Orochimaru said as he stumbled backward. "Perhaps to the snakes you've met. But I doubt you could be immune to mine or my father's poisons," Nola replied as she reverted to her smaller state. Orochimaru was furious at this point. He had been tricked again and again by this boy and now his pet snake. "I will get you for this," Orochimaru growled as he sunk into the ground. "He got away, eh?" Naruto and Nola looked to see Yal looking down at them. Nagini's body lay lifeless next to him. "Mother is?" Nola started to ask. "She's dead," Yal replied. "Does that mean the war is over?" Nola asked. "The death of a leader does not end a war. But it will shorten it," Yal replied as he turned to see Anko and just about every Konoha land in the now cleared area. "Naruto!" Anko shouted as she ran over to Naruto. She stopped seeing the Kusanagi impaled in his stomach. "Orochimaru was here," Anko said as she reached Naruto. "Yeah, we Frody kicked my ass. He summoned Nagini and I summoned Yal-sama," Naruto replied as he pulled the sword from his gut so he could start healing. "He left his sword?" Nola asked. "His chakra was in it, my guess is it would summon back to him after he left. But Kikbi burned the chakra out of it when he stabbed me," Naruto answered. "So not only have you been partially responsible for the loss of one of his best pawns and his snake summoning, but now you've taken his favorite weapon from him too?" Anko asked. "Seems like my will of fire keep burning his ass," Naruto said with a laugh. "I need sleep. I'll be taking my leave," Yal said as he and Nagini's bodies both vanished. "Anko-san, if Orochimaru's here we should cancel the exam," Anbu said. "That's for the Hokage to decide. We need to inform him about what's happened." "Move out," Anko said. And with that, the Jimnin all left save for Anko. "Anko-sensei," Naruto said before Anko grabbed him and kissed him again. Naruto didn't hesitate to return the kiss. Unfortunately, this kiss wasn't as good since she hadn't pulled down his bandages this time. Probably on purpose. "Don't worry me like that," Anko said as she pulled Naruto into a hug. "I saw Yal and Nagini and I feared for the worst. I don't want to lose you, Naruto," Anko added. "Sensei, I'm sorry," Naruto replied. "You better be now, you've got one more day, I'll see you tomorrow," Anko said before she vanished in a swirl of purple mist. Naruto simply stared off for a few moments before finally shaking his head. "Time to head out," Naruto said as he felt Nola partially curl around his neck. "How long can you be summoned for?" Naruto asked. It was getting close to 5 days now. "I can spend as much time as I like out if I'm not using chakra up. But with constant chakra use for 20 minutes. It's the same with most summons. If we aren't using chakra we get more time," Nola explained. "Rock on, well, I've taken out enough teams so I'm going to the tower. I'll pick off any teams that I see along the way. Can't hurt to narrow the field a little more," Naruto said as he started to walk. What if Godlike Naruto and Anko Kakashi bashing? Thanks for watching my video till the end. If you enjoy this content, then do consider subscribing to my channel and leave a like if you guys need the next part, comment down, and thanks for watching the video and see you guys in the next video.